105.3 The Fan and the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network present Dallas Cowboys Football 2023.
Prescott walks the dog. Touchdown Cowboys.
In crystal clear HD stereo. Today's pregame show is brought to you by
Volleman's Dairy, the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. Texaco. Texaco with Techron delivers unbeatable gas mileage. Texaco with Techron, driving performance. Arrow Exterminators, official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. Buffalo Wild Wings. Blockchain.com. Make your crypto play today. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com.
Now, here's Eric Chiofalo and Bryan Broaddus.
And the General Gavin Dawson hanging out with us on the official pre-game show of America's team. It's a Monday Night Football matchup, ladies and gentlemen. This is a big one. 3 hours and about 12 minutes to kick off. We got to get our minds and bodies right for this one. After the shellacking last week, it's time to turn the page. A week before the bye week, it's time for McCarthy to go toe-to-toe with Kellen Moore. Broaddus, so many talking points here. Happy game day to you, sir. If you're wanting the Rangers game, 1080 KRLD on the AM side is where you want to go. But right now, it's a Cowboys party with the General Gavin Dawson, myself, Eric Chiofalo, and, of course, Bryan Broaddus. Broaddus, I mean, that's the headliner, man. It's McCarthy and Kellen Moore, but this feels like gut check time from a Cowboys standpoint.
No, it is absolutely gut check time. And, you know, you get a bye next week, and if you find a way to win this game, you give yourself a 4-2 record. You're one game behind Philadelphia, kind of setting yourself up to come back, get yourself a little bit healthier, and then get ready for the second half of your season, you know, with the Rams coming in town in a noon game. But, yeah, this game is, I think it's personal on a couple different levels. I think it's personal for Mike McCarthy. I think it's personal for Kellen Moore. Everybody else, I think, is trying to find a way to win. You know, they're trying to say, okay, we got to go out and do our jobs. But a lot on the line for both of these coaches, because all of a sudden, if Mike McCarthy's offense goes out there and flounders around, doesn't get the job done, Kellen Moore, they have some success with the Chargers, which they're very capable of with their running game the way it is, with the way they can throw the football, the accuracy of their quarterback. Their offensive line has some questions, but you find a way, the Chargers find a way to win this game. This is going to be a hornet's nest for Mike McCarthy to have to deal with during the bye week.
It's been a huge disaster. And the Kellen Moore offense, after studying this Charger team for the last week or so, what are your takeaways from a Kellen Moore offense? Does it feel like copy and paste from his time here with the Cowboys, or does this look like they've added some layers?
No, it's kind of it's different from what the Chargers have done over their seasons. But it's as a unit, we're going to kind of see some of the same things that we saw with the Dallas Cowboys. When they pulling the offensive linemen down on the goal line, a little bit of the running game, the outside zone running game. You know, the way that you're going to see you're going to see wide receiver screens. You know, you're going to see the ball go a little bit down the field to the wide receivers. The tight ends are going to be involved with the game. The one thing you will not see is, and maybe you'll see it tonight after watching San Francisco, was the screens to the backs. But it's kind of, the offense is very similar to what we've experienced with him over the years here working with the Cowboys as he was the coordinator.
And the Chargers are talented. If they get the best of you tonight, it will not be fun, but what you can't see is like an undisciplined, unfocused game from the Cowboys. You know, this season is long at 17 games. After you lose, that should snap you into attention, and you should have everything buttoned down with extreme urgency going into the next game. If you don't, that's a red flag. Chargers are good enough at home, you could lose tonight. But if you shoot yourself in the foot a bunch of times for like the third game out of 4, then we'd be looking at a real serious crisis for these Cowboys early in the season.
Yeah. I mean, if the offense sputters and can't score touchdowns, the red zone stuff, of course, but the penalties, like how many times does it feel like, especially defensively, you're bailing out the offense on third down because here's an offsides or whatever type of dumb penalty it is, keeping the chains moving for the offense.
Yeah, that's what I know. Before the season started, I was asked on DallasCowboys.com on the break, what keeps this defense from being potentially elite? Well, I felt like that it was those penalties that they got on like you're talking about. Those third down penalties. All of a sudden, it's a 3rd and 7. They get off the field, then all of a sudden, you're dealing with a illegal contact penalty or hands to the face or lining up off sides. You can't have that. You're getting off the field, and all of a sudden now you got a penalty that gives your opponent some new life right there. And the Cowboys have had the share of those.
877-881-1053. What is your confidence meter in your Cowboys tonight? You can go hang out with Corey Majors of the Kansas City Masterpiece at Old 75 in Richardson. Get you some G-Bag Nation flags. It is the official Cowboy road game fan watch party. Hanging out with Corey Majors and company, get you a G-Bag flag. But what's the confidence meter, and what do you see right now? We talk about the Kellen Moore offense. How is this Cowboys defense matching up, and how huge of a loss is not having Leighton Vander Esch?
Well, it is. I think it's big because, when you look at what the Chargers like to do is a lot of it goes through with their quarterback. And so, how are you, the ability to tackle with no Vander Esch in there? He's one of your best when it comes to that. Now you're going to have to take Micah Parsons, probably play him more off-ball linebacker in this game. So him and Damone Clark are going to have to deal with Justin Herbert. They like to throw the ball to their tight ends quite a bit. Keenan Allen at wide receiver. These are things when you mentioned linebacker depth, crossing routes, things like that. They're all going to be big parts of the game. And that's not even to mention that, they're going to get Austin Eckler back in this game. And Austin Eckler, we all understand what he is. He's built low to the ground. He's a tough runner. They're going to hand him the ball inside. He's going to be able to bounce it outside sometimes. You got to get bodies to him and tackle, and that's the thing that Leighton Vander Esch was very, very good at, that sideline to sideline, playing downhill. Now that's on Damone Clark and Micah Parsons to have to make those plays before Austin Eckler can kind of take off running with that ball.
And, with an additional week here, and Kellen Moore, say what you want, but I don't know how much the Chargers necessarily take it personally, but I'm sure Kellen Moore takes it personally.
He does.
At the way this thing ended, and some of the comments of Mike McCarthy basically saying, hey, Kellen Moore, you cared a lot about the stats and stuff. I care about winning. I imagine Kellen Moore takes that pretty personally. But with, coming off the bye week, Kellen Moore, some extra tricks up the sleeve kind of thing? He's pulling out all the stops tonight.
I think Kellen Moore, and it always happens in nationally televised games, these coordinators like to prove how smart they are. They'll do things that they normally don't because the nation is watching, and they'll get that, oh, look how creative this guy is. I think if I'm Kellen Moore, that there's some things that I steal from Arizona. I think there's some things that I try and steal from San Francisco and what they did to this Cowboys defense. I mentioned Austin Eckler. I didn't see any screens in the times that I watched all the games that I watched for the Chargers.
Kellen Moore doesn't believe in those, does he?
Well, don't be surprised if he tries to throw a screen to Austin Eckler tonight.
Gosh, if they have a screen that works, it's going to tick me off.
Well,
I don't think we saw a screen work offensively for the Cowboys over the last 3 years.
I had a deal. I broke down, I'm able to kind of sort the plays how I wanted to see them and was checking for screens. You're going to see, we've seen plenty of screens to the wide receivers, plenty of screens to tight ends, but rarely a screen to the running back. But I would not be surprised if Kellen Moore tries to wrinkle or two something that these teams like Arizona and San Francisco have had success on.
Yeah, the issue with Kellen Moore, I don't think it's going to be in the run game per se. I don't think he's got the creativity or the eye to exploit in a traditional running game. But what he would notice and what would know from being here is that the Cowboys really struggle when a quarterback gets involved. So if I'm him in the first quarter, I'm trying to figure out a way to get a couple of RPOs, have Herbert keep those, and if I can get 10, 15 yards, that might be enough in the back of the Cowboys' minds to create big problems for them other places. In the run game. Once you introduce the quarterback running, I think it creates a domino effect for this Cowboys defense that does not go in their favor.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting how everything is changed up with the LVE absence, and now, Micah Parsons playing a little bit more off ball. Just what is the trickle effect, and is everybody understanding where they're supposed to be? Because they've looked a little deer in the headlights at times, especially in that Arizona game when you have a running quarterback. If Herbert's going to start taking off on you, which, he will. I don't know. Are they doing? How much design runs will they do with Herbert? He'll just take off on scrambles?
The thing about Herbert, though, is when you get pressure on him in the pocket, he'll take off and run.
Yeah.
But it's more about him just trying to avoid. He's tough to deal with in the pocket. In the Minnesota game, they had him sacked, and he's just bouncing off guys, and next thing you know, he's throwing the ball 25 yards down the field to Keenan Allen for a first down. And so when you get around him in the pocket, the body type, he's going to try and bust through those tacklers, arm tackles and stuff. So you got to make sure you get him down on the ground.
It's a huge storyline, though. You're going to go bye week, then one more game against the Rams, and then trade deadline. So you have 2 games to evaluate. Do we have enough at linebacker when LVE comes back? How sure are we of these things? Do we have enough at corner? Running back. I think there are a number of places here that if I'm a starter, I'm thinking I got to make an impression. Would they be looking at another safety? There's
safeties have not been good for this team this year. They just have not. It's, you just take your pick. I mean, it's about time for Donovan Wilson to step up and make some plays.
Yes.
Curse has really, really struggled in this, some opportunities that he's had, the angles that Hooker's taken, and they gave Hooker a decent contract. I know I took a lot of grief about him, that I felt like that they needed to get a better free safety, and they extended him. But I think if you watch the tape of all those guys playing, not just Hooker, but all of them, they've got to play better at that position.
Cowboys Nation, come out early to the Miller Lite House, the pregame gathering destination on the West Plaza of the stadium. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Cowboys, and we invite all Cowboys fans to join us for a great tailgate event. Sample some great seltzer brands as well, like Vizzy Hard Seltzer, the official hard seltzer of the Cowboys. When the Cowboys have the ball, is this Charger defense, does it intimidate you much? I know you think Bosa looks like he's going to end up playing.
Yeah.
They got Khalil Mack. Brandon Staley's supposed to be a young sort of defensive coordinator Jedi, but I don't think this is a great Charger defense.
Well, the thing about it is, like we mentioned, that going into the week, Bosa appeared doubtful. He had hamstring and toe injuries that he was dealing with, but they're going to get him back. Derwin James, the safety, is also coming back for him. He's been dealing with a hamstring injury. This team plays a lot more 4-3 front than they do 3-4, but there's a combination of both there. They like to stand around the line of scrimmage and kind of show you that they're going to blitz, and then they back out. So they're going to test you that way. They're going to test your protection, like with your calls. They're going to try and get you to set your calls, and then they're either going to blitz you or they're going to back out of that. And so that's where the twist, the stunts, that's how they've gotten Mack, Bosa, those guys home with some of the pass rush, that they try and confuse your front, and once they confuse you, then they're going to twist that front, and then it kind of puts you even more of some problems. Bosa and Mack are both pressure players. We talk about them. They come up with sacks. They've got 16 sacks this year, and 12 of those sacks are from no blitzing. So that they'll just show you that, again, like the 49ers, it was a 4-man line rush. I think we'll see a little bit of some of the same tonight with the Chargers. But they tend to their secondary is going to play more zone coverage, and that's going to kind of plays into Dak Prescott's wheelhouse. The teams that have played man, and let's see if the 49er game will influence what the Chargers do. Because we thought the 49ers were going to play a lot of zone, and they went strictly man. And after the game, even Mike McCarthy was surprised. Brian Schottenheimer the next day was really surprised with the number of man coverage that they were going to get. So they're a big cover 2 team. They like to play those safeties on the hash, try and keep everything in front of you. If you look at those metrics about how many open throws and neutral throws and tight window throws, you're right about 24% on those wide open throws they'll give you. The neutral throws are like 1 to 3 yards of separation right there. Mm-hmm. That's about 43%. So tight window is kind of a 13% with them. So you're going to have some opportunities for some separation in this football game. You got to take advantage of that.
I'm picking the Cowboys to win by 13 points, Chief. So I'm not overly concerned with the Chargers attack, but just like I said, don't rule out the Jets against the Eagles because of how you could make it one-dimensional. I'm worried of what happens if the Cowboys can't run the ball. We're thinking the Chargers' pass defense is bad. What happens if the Cowboys can't run the ball well, as it happened to them several times this year, and the Chargers' Brandon Staley is able to drop extra guys?
Right.
And that's the exact recipe for flustering Dak Prescott and ends up with 13, 14 points. I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're back in the 30s, but you can't rule it out. When things are going bad for this Cowboys offense, it doesn't take a special defense to frustrate them, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
There's a blueprint to it.
There is, and Brandon Staley versus Dak. I mean, Dak's numbers have been a bit pedestrian over the course of the last couple of years playing against Brandon Staley defenses because he does. He wants to drop. He wants to let you just kind of do your thing with, hey, we're not going to blitz you. We're going to get pressure on you, and if you can over the course of 4 quarters dice up this secondary with a bunch of bodies floating around, then kudos. And Broaddus, two deep safeties a lot.
Yeah.
Are they going to have to throw to the middle of the field for the first time this season? The Cowboys offense.
Yeah, that's it's really funny, but you look at the interceptions that they've had. The Brandon Cooks has been involved in 3 of the 4 interceptions that Dak Prescott has had this year. So yeah, and those have been in the middle of the field. Just that kind of that YOLO ball he threw, against San Francisco, where Cooks was well covered on the play. So yeah, we'll see if Dak can. Maybe that's the whole idea is play more cover 2 and then try and force Dak to throw the ball into that area and see if he can read those linebackers on those drops.
All right, the official pregame party of America's team is underway, ladies and gentlemen. Under 3 hours to a Cowboy kickoff. Monday Night Football, Cowboys and Chargers. Let's go around the NFL, take a look at this division, and we'll hear from Cowboys tight end Jake Ferguson next right here on The Fan.
Head to AT&T.
coming up here in just a few minutes. It's the official pregame show of the Dallas Cowboys right here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan. Under 3 hours to kick off. Cowboys and Chargers, SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. About to hear the player profile, and that is going to be Jake Ferguson today, Cowboys tight end. If you're looking for the Rangers game as they take on the Houston Astros in the ALCS, you're going to want to go to 1080 KRLD on the AM side if you're looking for the Rangers game, and they are currently up 5-1 right now in the top of the third. Jonah Heim getting it done there with a nice little blast to make it 5-1 with the Rangers over the Astros. So that's fantastic. We'll get you some football conversation here in a moment, but let's hear from Cowboys tight end Jake Ferguson, his one-on-one with the three-time Hall of Famer Chris Arnold.
Talking with Jake Ferguson. Jake, you guys got a big one tonight against the Chargers. It's going to be a big game. Not only because you guys want the bounce back, but what's the mentality going into this game? Everybody turn the page officially?
Yeah, I think it started this week. It started Sunday, right after that game, getting in the right mindset. So we come into this week, hit everything we're doing, whether it's practices on the field, off the field, whatever we're doing, we're on cue, so we can come this week, and play our best game, play our best football.
TP earlier this week, Tony Pollard was saying one of the differences this year's team and last year's team is last year's team could score a lot of points. This year it's about complementary football more, knowing that the defense is that strong. Is there situations where you say, okay, defense isn't as sharp as it normally is, we got to raise the offense a little bit?
In a complimentary sense, yeah, I think this offense definitely can score a lot of points though as well. I think just as from a tight end standpoint, doing everything the right way, whether it's routes, whether it's blocking. When I do that, we tend to have a good drive and we end up scoring some sort of way. And I think when we're clicking on all cylinders, whether it is complimentary or not, this offense can score. And complimentary with this defense, with them playing lights out, we usually have a great game, and that's what we're trying to get to.
Can you talk about leadership on this team? The older guys, the veterans, making sure the younger guys realize this is early on. You still got games to win, bridges to build, and continue on.
Yeah, I think it's not only is it important to look at every week and come every week with that one game mindset, but it's also important to focus. Hey, this is a long season. It is a marathon. We got to come every week, not just 1 week out of the year, not just a couple weeks out of the year. We got to come every week, and over that long period of time. And I think that's important. And those older guys, Zach, Tyron, Dak, are really emphasizing, hey, we're good. We're still a good team. We're still a great team. We still can score points. It's time to just lock in, trust our training, and put your head down and get after it.
Tight ends group has always been strong. You guys have always been strong. Individually, you personally, you have been literally on fire this year. It seems like you're getting separation all the time. Whether Dak sees you or not, you're doing your job very well, except for the first game. I got to bring up the first game. Yep. The weather's kind of bad. I'm throwing that. But you really feeling your niche right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, that first game, was a learning experience.
It was raining, man.
Yeah, can't really make an excuse on that, though. If the ball's hitting my hands, I expect to catch it. And I think that goes a little credit to Coach Wells. We're doing stuff off the field. We're doing stuff before practice, pre-practice. I'm going out there 10, 15 minutes before practice, staying a little bit after and working on those little things, whether it's getting yak, whether it's ball security, whether it's catching the ball in rain, whether it's, dunking a ball in a water a water bucket and, catching a wet ball. It's those little things that I've been really training and trying to get better at with Coach Wells, and just trying to perfect the little things is something I've been working on, and that just translating that to the game is something I'm really working towards this year.
And finally, it's Monday Night Football, but it's at SoFi. For some reason, Cowboy fans love to fill up that building. Can you talk about SoFi Stadium and the Cowboy fans showing the support? Because it seems like every time you guys go, it's a big crowd.
Yeah, you always hear a lot about Cowboys stuff, but you got to give some credit. There's always Cowboys everywhere, Cowboys fans everywhere. They're filling up stadium, and that's always a great feeling. And I'm excited for SoFi for sure, and excited to see that Navy blue out there.
All right, and go Cowboys tonight.
How about them?
Jake Ferguson.
That's right. There it goes. Cowboys tight end Jake Ferguson for today's player profile as we get you set for Cowboys and Chargers in Los Angeles. It'll feel like a bit of a home game for sure.
Yeah, the Southern California Cowboy Club is huge, and I've had the great honor of speaking before them in events and things like that. They'll come from all over that state, but especially that Southern California group. They will buy up all those tickets, and they don't be surprised if the Chargers might have to go some silent count tonight to try and get the ball off.
Oh, what a nightmare that is.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look around the NFL, around the NFC East here, brought to you by Reliant and NRG Company. What stood out to you yesterday over the course of the football slate, Broaddus? I mean, you get the Niners losing, you get the Eagles losing, then you have the Giants' incompetence on Sunday Night Football doing everything in their power to lose that football game, and the Commanders were finding a way to squeak by Desmond Ridder and the Falcons.
Yeah, it was funny. I was flying through Atlanta, and I saw the Commander fans showing up on Friday. I was kind of thinking, oh, okay, this must be one of those days. But I was really, I shouldn't say I was not surprised, but the way the Cleveland Browns played defense yesterday. And they got after Brock Purdy. It was statistically one of his worst games. They win with a backup quarterback. What's more amazing is the fact that they've drafted this kicker and it was a 41-yard field goal. And then all of a sudden it's a miss and you lose. Those are the kinds of days where you think you're doing it. And, Robbie Gould had been such an asset for them throughout their really good seasons. And then they make a switch at kicker and, you miss a 41-yard field goal. Oh, that's a rough one, on the front office right there.
Yeah, that's bad. And I actually kind of felt a little, am I alone here in feeling sad for that dude, Jake Moody? Because I saw after the game, I was super pumped. It was awesome. Like watching the end of that game and seeing the Niners lose, it just felt really good. It was borderline therapeutic for me. But then seeing after the game the photos of Jake Moody, the Niners kicker, who choked at the end, and his pregame photos where he's got just like a full contingent of family and friends. Because he went to Michigan, right? The game was played in Cleveland, so he's probably got a lot of family in that neck of the woods. And so they were all out and about. And pregame, they're there, they're excited, and then you go out there and you miss what is, by NFL standards, a chip shot, and you lose the game right there in front of the friends and family. He had his own student section.
Yep.
It was heartbreaking.
That's that's the kind of the life you live when you're an NFL kicker. I will say, great job by the Jets. The one thing that's interesting about that Jets game yesterday is that statistically the Eagles were ahead of them in every single way except for the turnovers, and that was the difference in that football game. But that Philadelphia has been kind of walking on the edge of finding ways to win these games, and good for them. Signed a good team to be able to do that. But the Jets to get a win, they're back to 500 with Zach Wilson at quarterback now, and it looks like Aaron Rodgers. We talked about this on our show earlier today. Boy, I'll tell you what, it's the Jets will be a team that plays pretty good defense on you, and Philadelphia saw that yesterday.
Yeah, man. All these turnovers, Jalen Hurts like throwing the ball, and I'm like we're all left scratching our head. Like what are you seeing right now? It was less than ideal for them. They've had some injuries, and now they got to turn around Sunday Night Football. They're going to host the Dolphins this week. And will they have their right tackle, Lane Johnson, who's banged up? Their entire secondary feels like every single game there's a new injured safety on the back end of that defense for the Eagles. So it'll be interesting to see how they're able to move forward. I mean, the Eagles actually have quite the gauntlet moving forward here over the next stretch. They're going to play the Niners. They got the Dolphins this week. They're going to play the Niners within the next couple of weeks. They're going to have the Cowboys mixed in there. They got the Bills mixed in there. So the Eagles, man, the Eagles might be a little bit in trouble when we wake up here in the next 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah, not as much trouble as if Lane Johnson would have to miss more games, but it appears he's not going to be too compromised. But he has been a player that has shut things down for them, almost like Christian McCaffrey with the 49ers. The guy's gone. The Eagles have dropped to average, and he's there. They're the best offensive line in football, so that is a huge injury. But, I mean, even if healthy for Philadelphia right now, they do not have the same feel as last year, Bryan. I think they're vulnerable. Quick note, the Rangers and Astros are on KRLD. That's our sister station, AM. Just still a couple of people texting that don't know that. We did our best, and we'll continue to do so across social media and broadcast. They're on our sister station tonight. But the Rangers lead 5-1, and Valdez has been chased. He's out of there in the third inning.
Oh, they've already pulled him.
They just did, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is that's beautiful. Okay, the Rangers rocking.
And they brought
in
a righty, so bring back Evan Carter now, right?
Yes, I think that's exactly.
Montero in for the Astros, yeah.
Yeah, but because Valdez is their only lefty. So let's get Evan Carter back in there, a.k.a. the savior himself, who's on an absolute tear right now at 21 years old. This is beautiful. Rangers getting it done right now on 1080 KRLD on the AM side. A couple more football observations. Shout out to your Detroit Lions over there, Broaddus.
Yes.
You have a payoff in waiting if the Lions don't win at least one playoff game, I believe,
Right.
Is the deal. So you made that preseason. You felt good about your Lions. And now, I mean, you feel better about the Lions than you do the Cowboys. Everybody's talking about the top three teams in the NFC. It's the Niners, it's the Eagles, it's the Cowboys. I think you've seen Detroit leap the Cowboys in that conversation of the top three in the conference.
Yeah, the Lions were a team I felt like that with the way that they constructed their team, with the toughness, the way they were able to win all those games. They've got a quarterback that doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't turn the ball over. They're really physical up front. They play really good defense. So, yeah, there's a lot to like. I think with the changing of power in the NFC North, with Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets, and the Vikings having some questions on defense, we've seen the Bears not be very good. So that division right there was for the taking, and the Lions look like they might be a team that, we get to maybe mid-December, and that thing might already be wrapped up.
Yeah, I think if the Cowboys and Lions matched up right now, I would pick Detroit. I think they're very close, but you just can't run on the Lions right now. And I strongly believe that in order for the Cowboys offense to be efficient, they have to threaten the defense with their ground game. I don't think they would threaten Detroit with their ground game, and they could focus on playing pass defense.
Yeah, the rushing attack for the Cowboys. I mean, there's so many criticisms of the Cowboys offense right now. We'll continue to break it down, of course, with Broaddus over the next few hours as we get you set for Cowboys and Chargers. But
it gets fixed with the run game. Like, they've had red zone issues throughout Dak's deal, and they fixed red zone whenever they blocked well enough to get Zeke a big enough hole to get those dirty yards in the red zone and score. Mm-hmm. And when they did that, then some things would open up in the passing game. But everything's predicated off the run game under these Cowboys with Dak Prescott.
Yeah, and Mike McCarthy was the guy talking about we want to be able to run the ball. We're trying to be complimentary. It's his favorite word to use, and it's play to the defense, run the ball well. They haven't been able to do it, but now you're 2 weeks in a row, I think. It's always a game time decision for Tyron Smith, but it should be 2 weeks in a row where you have your horses, your five guys up front that the night you drafted Tyler Smith, you thought you were going to have over the course of these last couple of years. You've only got it one time. It was last week. It didn't work out for you in any way. Hopefully it's a huge bounce back performance for the Cowboys offense tonight. Let's continue to break it down as we go inside the star with Cowboys insider Bobby Belt next right here on The Fan.
Dallas, the jackpots for Mega Millions Powerball.
80 AM side, KRLD, our sister station on the AM side. 1080 KRLD is where you can listen to the Rangers rock and roll right now in the bottom of the third, up 5-1 to the Houston Astros. We go inside the Star as we inch closer and closer to a Cowboy kickoff. Monday Night Football, Cowboys-Chargers, and Bobby Belt is in studio with us right now. Bobby, happy game day, sir.
Happy game day. How's it going, gents?
Feeling good, dude.
Good.
This is huge.
Yeah.
This is gut check time, and this is Kellen versus McCarthy. There's so many storylines, but this feels like one where, hey, it's an AFC game. When you look at like how much does it change your percentages for the playoffs, it's almost literally zero, like win or lose. But there's so much from like a psychological standpoint that feels like, and going into a bye week, this is like big time gut check. You got to go stop the bleeding right now because it feels like, oh no, this could get out of hand if you get embarrassed on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, I think this is a game that, it's important that you bounce back the right way from what happened against San Francisco after all the talk you did and how you just laid an absolute egg. So it's important just from that standpoint. But I think it's also important. We were talking about this earlier today with Nick Eatman. I think this game, I think you can make an argument this game is more personally important to Mike McCarthy than the game in Green Bay last year. Like, I think that this is something that matters a ton to him because he spent 3 years trying to get his concepts in place and wanting to run things his way. And it's all on the line for him now, with Kellen Moore going to the Chargers, and it's going to be on full display. This is a chance to see my concepts against yours. I think it's a very personal game for him. I think if you were to talk about last week, that was a game that was really important to the players. I think this week is a week that's very important to the coaching staff. And either way, it's something that you don't want to go to the bye week blowing both of these.
Excuse me, Bobby, but is play calling past Mike McCarthy by? I mean, and I say that in a way because of 7 years he's been, as a primary play caller and was really good at it. Mm-hmm. But in 7 years, could you forget how to ride that bike?
I don't know if you necessarily forget how to ride the bike, but look, there's going to be a feeling.
Got to get a new bike.
Yeah, that maybe you just can't ride the same Schwinn like that you were riding in 1994.
Sure.
And that's the thing. You need an update here. You need some new tires.
But this bike's got character, man.
I know.
I remember when I wrecked this bike and had to try to put the pieces back together, and it didn't really work. And now I'm riding around, but so many just fun memories that I just can't let it go.
Nobody wants to let the new car or the first car go away. Like nobody wants to get rid of the first car, but you got to update, you got to adapt. And look, he told us to his credit, or to be fair, I should say, he told us that he did all of those things, that he did evaluate and he did figure out what he needed to change, and he did figure out.
Us,
this is when Lucius plays the lies drop.
He convinced some folks, and so it's something where he really did say, like, this is what I've done. And I think that there are differences here in what he's doing right now in Dallas, but I don't know that it's enough of a difference. You're talking about stuff that it just looks very basic. It looks like you're trying to run West Coast concepts while still taking out parts of it that you don't feel comfortable with your quarterback, saying like, well, no, don't play over the middle of the field. Okay, well, the middle of the field's supposed to be a really big part of West Coast concepts too.
Did he and the staff, have they overanalyzed Dak?
Yeah. No, I think what the analogy I've drawn to it is they hydroplaned, like the interceptions last year from Dak were hydroplaning.
Yeah.
And what you need to do is let your foot off the gas and get your tires back on the road. And instead they slammed on the brakes and now they're in a tailspin. And I think that that's where the offense is right now. This is an offense that the quarterback doesn't look comfortable in. A lot of the receivers at times don't look comfortable in it. And Mike McCarthy's still trying to find a rhythm. Now look, all of these talking points that we have here, they will melt away if they go out there and they put up 40 on the Chargers and they win this game. Like we're going to be saying, it was right up against each other. You saw Kellen versus Mike, the concepts that were right across from each other, and the Cowboys came out on top. A lot of this will go away if they can do that, and that'll be a big thing to ride high on for 2 weeks. If it doesn't play that way, then this is going to be a very bitter 2 weeks where there's going to be a lot of self-reflection from a lot of different people on this team.
Bobby Belt with us here on The Fan, getting you set for Cowboys and Chargers. Where are you at? What do you think the status is of CeeDee Lamb here in terms of his happiness, and also, like, is tonight one of those nights where they sort of force feed it to him a little bit?
I think he was really good on Friday when he talked to the media, and he had said there that, look, there's a better way to go about things. He says, after every game, I do a little bit of self-reflection. I look at it and I in looking back on it, I said, did I do everything that I could to help my team win? Was I everything that my team needed me to be? And if the answer is no, then I start evaluating, okay, there are things that I need to change. And he said that he got out of that game and said there were things I needed to do differently, whether it be on the field or on the sideline. There were just things I needed to do differently. But I thought he also made a good point, and he and Dak both relayed the same conversation, that they talked about their interaction and some of the tension or frustrations with the offense at times. And they both said that Dak had told CD, look, do not worry about what the media is going to say, okay? Because the media is going to say whatever they're going to say. If you have a problem with something and you're frustrated, come up and talk to me on the sideline. If you look super animated about it, I don't care how the media reads it. We know what we're doing. We're trying to work through something. You come up, you talk to me any way that you need to, and we'll work this thing out. And CD said he kind of like had an epiphany where it's like, if I stand off by myself, people are going to say I'm standing off by myself and I'm pouting. If I get kind of animated with my hands, people are going to say I'm pitching a fit. And so, I realized that it's kind of going to be said, whatever's going to be said. And so I should just probably worry about expressing how I'm feeling instead of, letting it build up and become frustrated by it. And so I think that that's a healthy aspect of their communication that seems to have, been ironed out this week. So that's a big positive. Will they feed it to him? I don't know. I mean, Jerry said on Tuesday, he's like, I don't necessarily need to see more targets for him. And his target share is definitely way down from where it's been. But the other part of me thinks that Mike McCarthy knows, hey, if I want to get this offense rolling, if I want to get this passing game going, I'm going to need him to be involved and get him involved early. Would not be the first time that Mike McCarthy has sought to target somebody like, let's get him involved. They did it a couple different times last year with Michael Gallup, trying to get him going when he was having some frustration. So I would not be surprised if the first, couple passes of the game, most of them are to CD.
We look at Dan Quinn, 2 out of the last 3 haven't been good for this defense. What do they have to do better tonight?
Man, it's interesting because I think that a lot of what the issues are, I don't know if it's anything that is you're going to be able to repair right away. Like I mean, some of these things in run defense, it's just sort of the nature of the players that they have. Some of the eagerness, the aggressiveness, trying to get upfield, running past things. It's something that I feel like has been a criticism that we've talked about with them, dating back to when the Chris Richard defenses in 2018 were playing well, but the way people felt they could take advantage of them was like, okay, take advantage of that speed. Let them, get a little aggressive, overrun the play a little bit. So there is some of that. I think you need Jaron Kearse to play better. I think you need your linebackers to really step up. Leighton Vander Esch, when he has gone out of games in the past, it's started to become, it's not quite to this level, but it's started to become like when Sean Lee used to miss games, where it was like, how does a single linebacker missing a game cause defensive linemen and secondary to play worse? And it's just because he was such a high IQ player and communicated things, and him getting involved in plays or stopping plays or doing whatever he would do would then funnel out and make everybody else play better. It's to a smaller effect, but a similar one to what happens with Leighton Vander Esch. So the linebackers need to step up. You need to generate a more consistent pass rush than you did last week. You need to take advantage of some of the potential leaks with the Chargers offensive line that you weren't able to with the 49ers. I think those are the 2 big things right there.
Do you worry about the matchup of Keenan Allen on Gilmore?
I worry about the matchup of Keenan Allen on anybody because Keenan Allen's going to get his, it feels like. I mean, this is a guy who...
He's not going to run out of sight. I mean, but he's just... He'll body you up. He's a big, he's a big catcher. I worry about that a little bit of what we've seen with Gilmore.
It's such an old cliche, but it became a cliche because it's true, is that Keenan Allen is one of those guys where even when he's not open, he's open. Like he's one of those guys. He is so good at attacking the football and, adjusting to the ball and using that little subtle, maybe Michael Irvin kind of hand check at times to get that little bit of separation at the end. He's really good at that, and he's an incredibly tough finisher who has really strong hands. And so it is one of those things where even if Gilmore's got him blanketed, it may not matter a lot of the time because he is so good at catching contested footballs. And that's why he's got games like he did a couple weeks ago where he catches like 20 passes or whatever he did, where he was targeted 20 times and caught all those passes. That's the type of player that he can be. And Kellen Moore clearly is really interested in trying to get him the football as much as he can because it's been on display in several of these games. And, now with Mike Williams down, it may be something where it's even more of a focus for them. But yeah, Keenan Allen is a concern. I mean, you're going to need to figure that one out.
When you guys studied the Chargers this week, did it feel like a copy and paste situation of what he did with the Cowboys it's just different uniform, different players? Or do you feel like Kellen Moore has added some layers to his own offense?
So I don't know about you, Brian. what I saw already on tape a lot more pistol than I really saw the Cowboys ever run.
Exactly, yeah.
Which for
explain pistol.
Pistol is basically like a half shotgun with a back behind you.
Right.
It's like a modified looking shotgun. It's not under center, but you're not all the way back to the depth of shotgun.
The running back is directly behind the quarterback, and it's like take the snap and turn and hand the ball, and then it allows the blocking to kind of get its footing.
Imagine I formation, only the quarterback is standing where the fullback was, and then there's nobody under center. Like it kind of looks like, and the quarterback's kind of stand up. It's that sort of depth, and it's that sort of lineup. But they were in pistol a lot more. And one of the things that was interesting to me was Darius Davis, the 4th round pick out of TCU that they drafted, who, when you talk about a 5'8", 165-pound receiver gadget player from TCU, it sounds like, don't we have one of those? Isn't that somebody that we've wanted to get involved? He has used Darius Davis like it felt like a lot of people were asking him to use Turpin last year.
Yeah.
And so it does make me wonder, okay, how much of that was Mike McCarthy doesn't like smaller slot guys? How much of that was McCarthy not wanting to use Turpin? How much of that was just Kellen Moore learning and growing from those sorts of things? But it's just from that alone, I think the way he uses Davis and the pistol stuff like that right there is totally different than anything that we saw him doing in Dallas. But for the most part, I think a lot of it is very similar.
Cowboys win?
I've got Chargers in this one, 28-16.
28-16.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Belt going with the Chargers. Okay. And you'll be hanging out at Old 75 in Richardson for the watch party with Corey Majors and some G-Bag flags.
I will. I'll be out there at Old 75 for the first half of the game. Halftime will hit. I'll come back to the station so I can finish watching the second half here. Can do some writing when the game's over. Do post game with Bryan and Zach. It'll be a good old time.
Oh, that's fantastic.
You want me to pick you up a G-Bag flag?
Yeah. Pick me up a couple of those G-Bag flags if you don't mind.
I'll sign it for you.
Because I like, from the photos I've seen of the Tolos that already have that thing, that flag planted somewhere in the house, seeing the way it lays over these windows with the blinds and the sun coming through.
Cool.
The pure gold is always flag. It is just, it's a tone setter. Okay. And so I'm trying to get mine. I've been doing some convincing with the wife to throw that bad boy in the master. So if I can pull that off, and maybe if I have a couple of those flags, I can try and sneak attack throughout the house.
Yeah, because then it becomes a theme. It becomes like a design theme.
Yeah,
it's
it all ties in together. It's like the feng shui and
Yeah,
whatnot.
I see what you're doing
So you
there.
get it, Bobby.
Yeah.
Bobby Belt going to Old 75 right now, hanging out with the KNC Masterpiece, Corey Majors, G-Bag flags, all the beer, all the deliciousness. Bob, we love you.
I love you all.
All right, it is the official pregame show of America's Team right here on your home of the Cowboys 105.3 The Fan. It's big, it's good, and it's only for Cowboys fans. The Cowboys special from Papa John's, a large one-topping pizza for only $9.99. Order today. Better ingredients, better pizza. Papa John's, the official pizza of the Dallas Cowboys. If you want to check out the Rangers right now, you can listen on 1080 KRLD on the AM side, our sister station. But we're rocking all the Cowboys right now. And let's go behind enemy lines. We go live to SoFi Stadium with the voice of the Chargers, Matt Money Smith. Next, right here on The Fan.
Go behind the scenes.
pregame show.
Fade up and caught. Touchdown, Dallas.
Brought to you by
Bill Nunnally, attorneys and counselors. Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Jack Link's, feed your wild side. Volleman's Dairy, the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. Texaco. Texaco with Techron delivers unbeatable gas mileage. Texaco with Techron, driving performance. And by Papa John's, the official pizza of the Dallas Cowboys. Papa John's, better ingredients, better pizza.
O'Connell looking in the middle of the field, hit, and he is dropped, sacked. Who do you think it was? Unbelievable. The 6th sack for Khalil Mack, a new Chargers record, a loss of 10, a new individual record for Khalil Mack in a single game. Khalil came in with 84.5 sacks. He's walking out with 90.5 for his career.
It's time to go behind enemy lines here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan. 2 hours and 15 minutes to kick off Cowboys and Chargers. We welcome in the voice of the Chargers, Matt Money Smith, live from SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. Matt, thank you so much for the time, sir. Happy game night to you. And are we expecting a giant Cowboy crowd tonight? I mean, people are here talking about 60-40 Cowboys. What are you seeing out there at SoFi?
Oh, I saw a lot, Erica, in the streets. A lot of Cowboy fans. And look, it's been that way forever here, right? With Oxnard and with training camp. There are, in an absence of 25 years of no NFL, I mean, you got a lot of Cowboy fans in town. One thing that I've noticed, I've been doing this since they arrived in Los Angeles in 2017, is just the impact of Justin Herbert and how many young football fans he's converted. And in turn, parents are now bringing their kids in their number 10 jerseys. So that's made... It's changed the dynamic from, 80-20 in some cases to 70-30 to now we're getting closer to 50-50. But I think that's probably best case for the Chargers tonight, is that we got a half split here inside of SoFi.
Matt, what does it look like for the health of your defense tonight? Kind of hearing things that maybe we might see Joey Bosa back. Derwin James was a guy that was working in that direction. How can you give us any insight on that?
Yeah, Brian, I'll tell you, it's going to be Bosa. It's going to be Derwin. They're going to be back. The only player that's going to be missing is Alohi Gilman, I think. It's not official yet, but he's got a heel issue, and he's been solid. Just someone that's not necessarily the athlete that you'd like to have at free safety, but super smart, incredibly just reliable. He does not allow sort of those big plays that have occurred. We know the Chargers have let up a ton of explosives this year. A lot of that's been on some backup safeties, some corners. Alohi's kind of been the steady hand back there. So that's a big loss, but I think of all the positions on defense, that's probably the one that they're going to be missing someone.
Voice of the Chargers, Matt Money Smith, hanging out with us here on the official pregame show of the Dallas Cowboys, getting you set for Cowboys and Chargers. How much of the conversation this week has been about the Kellen Moore, McCarthy reunion situation going down tonight?
A little bit. I think just because Kellen's in his first year, and you know how he is. He's just so polite. There's no, it's just nothing but the high road for him. So he's not giving you a lot. But I do think the one thing that's happened since he's arrived is Justin Herbert looks the way Chargers fans want him to look.
Mm-hmm.
Those explosive plays are back. The deep shots are back. The rushing touchdowns are back. Things that just went missing in the 2 years with Joe Lombardi here. So certainly the fan base, and I think even the media likes having Kellen here. I think we're obviously going to highlight the difference in the two offenses, how you can pretty much run a parallel between how the Chargers have improved and how the numbers on the Dallas side of things have decreased almost an exact amount. When you look at red zone touchdown percentage, third downs, explosive plays, all of that has gone up for the Chargers this season, and that's been great to see. And it just felt like, we had the keys to a Ferrari and we never took it out of second gear for the majority of last season.
Matt, who should the Cowboys worry about mainly on defense? If Keenan Allen, to me, is incredible the way he's played. He's had such a great career. Gerald Everett looks outstanding catching the football. And then Austin Eckler being back healthy. Kind of power rank it for the Cowboy fans who they should be worried about tonight.
Well, if it's not third down, it's going to be Austin Eckler. And that just comes from experience since he's been here, walking around on the field with, my partner on the broadcast, Daniel Jeremiah. We end up talking to quite a few coaches. And when you do that, he's the first name out of their mouth.
Yeah.
He is such a tough cover. He'll line up wide of the numbers. If there's a linebacker with him, look out. He never goes down on first contact. Obviously, he's been out for 4 weeks, including the bye, so he's going to be fresh. I think he's probably your number one concern. If you want to make him left-handed, he's probably the right hand in terms of making this offense go, especially with no Van Der Esch out there. But on third down, it's just – I'll tell you, guys, it's incredible. Like, everybody knows where the ball's going. You know it's going to Keenan Allen. Nobody has more third down catches for first downs, third down catches for touchdowns, third down catches, period, since 2017, and they can't do anything about it. It really is remarkable, the route runner that he is and how he knows exactly where the marker is, what he needs to do to get open before Justin's experiencing any pressure, and just the dance that the two of them are able to do.
My goodness, man. Now, when it comes to Eckler, will there be any sort of like pitch count or anything like that tonight, or when he's back, they unleash the beast?
Yeah, I think you unleash it. To me, I think this could end up being one of those, just because I'd be surprised if Josh Palmer goes. They're saying, I saw Tom Pelissero earlier today said that he was going to go, but just kind of hearing how that went at practice and what's going on, and that to me means like a 10-catch game for Eckler. So that's sort of kind of what I'm looking at if that's the case. Quentin Johnston just has not kind of shown that he's at a level where Justin Herbert trusts him. So that's sort of, I think part of it's necessity. Part of it is Austin saying I could have gone in week 4, but the bye was here and just felt so much better about coming back 100%. So if that's the case, it's going to be a heavy dose. Because also Josh Kelly and Isaiah Spiller really didn't give the run game a whole lot of juice while he was out. So I think, that's also part of it.
Matt, in watching your tape, I was surprised because I absolutely loved this kid when he came out as Rashawn Slater. And I just kind of noticed, and I went back and kind of broke him down to the pressures that you guys have faced. Has he had a little bit more trouble with some of his pass protection as what we've seen in the past from him?
Yeah, so it's one game, and I think it's injury. He was pitching a shutout going into the Raider game. He had literally shut out Bradley Chubb, and he had not allowed – I think he had allowed 2 pressures total in 3 games going into that game, and one of them was questionable. It was a stunt, and I think it was just a missed assignment. But if you go back and watch a sack, Herbert gets sacked from the right side from Crosby. He just beat Pipkins right off the jump. And somehow Slater got caught in the middle of that, and he bent backwards. And it was gnarly. Like, we were a little worried about him even be able to continue to play. And from that moment forward, he was not the same guy. And DJ even said it. He's like, something's not right because this is not the Rashawn Slater we're used to. So I think it's definitely something to keep an eye on, guys, because he pitches shutouts. I said
he's
if he
incredible.
Can do
He
Williams,
really is.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, he is amazing to watch play. And and I was surprised because I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting, okay, I'm not going to have to worry about this left side. That's a win right there for the Chargers. But a compromised, nicked up Slater is something, as you say, keep an eye on.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, because you look at last week with the Cowboys and just Micah Parsons when he was opposite Trent Williams, it's just not there. And I think that's the hope, right, for Kellen Moore. Can we do that? If Micah lines up over there, we don't have to give Rashawn any help, and you can commit all your resources to the other side, your tight ends. And Austin Eckler, by the way, that's a big get for them. Like, Joshua Kelly is, as much as he's improved, like Austin Eckler is just he's really good in pass pro. So that's going to be a big pickup for this team as well compared to what they were dealing with when he was out.
Has there been any conversation? We've kind of been discussing, like, how much with the Van Der Esch injury, how much is Micah Parsons going to be playing some off-ball linebacker tonight? I didn't know if that had been into the discussions at all.
I would guess
in the game
0.
Plan. They're just worried about him as a pass rusher, huh?
Yeah, I hope it's a lot. I hope I'd get him away from the line of scrimmage. It's like Derwin, I think they're very similar, right? Where you can play them anywhere on the field. You can play Derwin at outside corner. You could play Micah at freaking outside corner, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he could play there. So, but we always say, the closer to the ball that Derwin James is, the more effective he is. Can he play free safety? Yes. Can he play slot corner? Yes. But you know what? Let's get him right there on the line of scrimmage, and let's let him cut him loose and wreak havoc. And I think that's just what Coach Staley and Kellen Moore are anticipating. Because, man, there's just nobody like him. There's nobody like him in the NFL, the amount of damage he can do the second that ball is snapped.
Matt, you guys play, if you believe in metrics and all those things and the numbers, you guys play a ton of zone defense. Any chance that Staley would look at the San Francisco and the way that they played man and challenge these Cowboy receivers to win off the line of scrimmage? Is it that big? Can he make that big of a swing, or is he going to sit in his cover 2 and try and navigate the game that way?
I hope so.
Yeah,
that would be my answer. I hope he does. That's been the one issue with this defense is, they talk about assignments and leverages and passing off when they're not supposed to, and there's just so many rules, and it just feels like it's paralysis by analysis at times. And, they can get home with 4. Tuli Tuipulotu has been a huge addition to this team.
He really has. Yeah.
So they can get home in 4. The Raiders doubled Khalil Mack twice, and they doubled Tuli 27 of his 38 pass rushes. So, that's the thing. I feel like if you can get home with 4, just let them play man and get after it. But we just haven't quite seen that. We saw – I'll tell you what's interesting, though. So they end up playing a ton of man against Miami, and they get roasted.
Yeah,
Roasted in that game. So I wish I knew the answer to that. I think now that J.C. Jackson is gone and, we've seen this defense take steps, right, from being inactive in Minnesota to refusing to go in the game against the Raiders. It was put on the defense. Go win this game. We have a lead. Can you pick? And they did, and it just seemed like far too often last year it's like, hey, it's on you. Can you win this game for us? No. So maybe there's something to that. Maybe there is a little bit more of a rhythm that Michael Davis, Jasir Taylor, and Asante Samuel feel really good out there together in what they're supposed to do and what the rules are and how they're going to play and complement one another, that they can play, quarters and they can play that too high shell. The problem is they're probably not going to have that second safety. So, again, that means you're putting Derwin up there, and I just don't know if that's the right thing, But I don't know what the answer is to trying to, slow down CeeDee Lamb. And to me, that should be the number one priority on offense. Take away that right hand and let him figure something else out.
Well, I know one thing. If they don't block Kenneth Murray, he'll have 1 million tackles in this football game. He's gotten. I've just played the way he plays downhill is just super impressive.
I don't know what happened. I'll be honest, guys. A switch flipped because – the thing about Kenneth is he's going 100 miles an hour.
Right.
And he's got, the athleticism and the body. My goodness, it is a thump when you get hit by him. But just routinely, he was guessing wrong. He was a little too aggressive. And the second that Eric Kendricks was out and he got that green dot, something happened. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it is. But the last 3 games, starting with Tennessee, he's just been a different player and been so much more effective and starting to live up to that first-round billing that he really had not. Prior to those 3 games.
Voice of the Chargers, Matt Money Smith, with us here on The Fan. Now, you had mentioned Quentin Johnson earlier, the first-round pick, wide receiver, TCU. I know a lot of our listeners are interested in what's been going on with him. You said he hasn't quite gained the trust of Herbert in big situations. What have you seen from him to this point?
Yeah, it's been very similar to kind of what the conversation was around him at TCU, and that's hands. He doesn't quite trust him. You can see him gather before he catches the ball. And I'll tell you, it's interesting because in practice he looks, he's looked good. He looked good in training camp. But there have just been, he dropped a crucial 3rd down catch against the Raiders on their first possession of the second half. They got shut out in that second half against the Raiders. And they're deep. The punt pins him back to the 4-yard line. And he's open on the left sideline for a gain of about 20 to give him some breathing room, out to the 35. And he just lets the ball get to his body, pops up in the air. Probably should have been intercepted. And from that point on, he just never looked his way again. And I think, that's something they're going to have to figure out because he's too important to this team without Mike Williams the rest of the year and perhaps without Joshua Palmer today. They need him to just, and I get it, right? You're a rookie. It's Justin Herbert. It's, prime time against the Cowboys. I've got no problem with you having a little bit of nerves, but sooner or later, you got to, say I'm in my 5th game in the NFL. I'm here. It's time to play. And I think we've just kind of seen a little bit of that reticence and a little bit of nervousness from him. And I think that's led to some trust issues with the quarterback. Because you go back and watch the tape, and I think I kind of two sluggos that he's wide open. And he's not even getting looked, he's not even looking his way. He's throwing to double coverage.
Yeah, Matt, it seems like when people press him, too, he's had some problems with that as well.
Yeah, I'll tell you what's interesting about it is the 4th-round pick, his teammate from TCU, Darius Davis, has got the implicit trust from Herbert. He loves him. And, you look at it and it's like, oh, yeah, well, there it is. It's not a lot, but it's 4 targets, 4 catches. It got that big 51-yard rip out of the backfield. And he was the guy they went to on a 4th and 2 in Tennessee and picked up 11. So it's interesting the difference. You get the first round expectations and pedigree of Quentin Johnston, and then you got a fourth rounder and some people saying, well, why would you pick a punt returner in the fourth round and a kick returner when nobody's returning kicks anymore? And turns out it's very similar to DeAndre Carter last year, who Herbert really gained some trust in and had a career year, had over 700 yards receiving and I think 5 touchdowns. And I think Darius, that'd be somebody I keep an eye on this evening. Is he could end up being sort of that take the top off X factor. If Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen are getting too much attention, I wouldn't be surprised to see Kellen Moore dial up maybe a shot play for Darius, just because he's the only legitimate speed threat on this team. He's a 4-3 guy.
Matt, I wish I had time to give you the backstory and the context, but I don't. So I'll just ask you this: during halftime of home games at SoFi Stadium, how much eating do you do?
You know what? We sprint. It's a small press room where the broadcasters are, and it's all the replay and a lot of officials. So as soon as we sign off, thankfully we have someone back in the studio that takes it from there, and we sprint to grab our delicious overcooked and dried out hot dogs and maybe if we're lucky a couple dried out cookies and power them down in about 3 minutes so we can get back into the booth.
Well, if you bump into Brad Sham up there, go ahead and ask him what he's eating at halftime of home games at AT&T Stadium. I'm sure he'll get filled with envy. Matt, we appreciate the time, sir. Enjoy the game.
You got it. Absolutely, guys.
There he goes, Matt Money Smith, voice of the Chargers, as we go behind enemy lines here on the official pregame show of America's Team, brought to you by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. It is Miller time, and 2 hours to kick off. It is Babe Laufenberg time next right here on The Fan.
Bell Nunnally has been committed.
Turf at SoFi Stadium. I'm seeing the clips right now. Kellen Moore, big, giant, childlike smile as he dabs up with his former coaching staff members and former Cowboy players there at SoFi Stadium. Cowboys and Chargers, Monday Night Football. It is the official pregame party of America's team. We'll get to SoFi Stadium and welcome in Babe Laufenberg here in just a second. But if you're looking for the Rangers game, you can flip over to 1080 KRLD on the AM side. You can listen to the Rangers game there with Eric Nadel, Matt Hicks, and Jared Sandler. If you're looking for a last-minute spot to watch the game tonight, you can watch some Monday Night Football with Corey Majors at Old 75 in Richardson. I know Bobby Belt is going to be making his way over there, so you can hang out with those fellas, get some G-Bag flags. And we in the G-Bag Nation tomorrow, Hurtado Barbecue in Arlington, we will also have G-Bag flags. We'll be doing our show there 2 to 7 tomorrow. So Flagtober is rocking and rolling, and Babe Laufenberg is rocking and rolling live from SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. Babe, are you seeing this love fest down there? I'm seeing a bunch of clips. Kellen Moore dapping up, hugging up, even though he wants to put 100 on the scoreboard tonight.
I am seeing it. I am in our booth, and I'm looking at the field, and I have my binoculars, of course. And, Kellen is making the rounds, saying hello to all the – I don't know about all of them. I don't know. I'm always interested in the Kellen Moore, Mike McCarthy hello. I don't think it'll be a Jim Schwartz, Jim Harbaugh, what's your deal handshake. But,
ooh, I'd like that, though.
Wouldn't it be fun?
It would be fantastic.
Babe, is this more important to Mike and the Kellen than it is to the team, or really what's going on with all this? I mean, when you start to talk about, grudge or, any animosity or anything like that, is it more about these two coaches than it is about what the teams are doing?
Yeah, I think, you come out and you play, and it's not unlike when McCarthy went against Aaron Rodgers last year. You want to beat the other guy, no question.
Sure.
But Kellen Moore's focus tonight will not be, gosh, how can I get at McCarthy? McCarthy will not be thinking, boy, if we need to put up more yards in Kellen's offense. They're going to go out, they're going to play the game. But there's no question for the two of them.
It's like personal a bit, right? A little personal?
Sure. No hatred or anything. But, hey, let's face it.
There might be some hatred. There might be some hatred there.
If Kellen Moore's offense shines tonight and this Cowboys offense stays in neutral like it has been, that will be a huge topic of conversation, as you well know.
Yeah, I mean, don't you feel like off a bye week as well, Kellen Moore trying to implement, he's gonna be pulling out all the stops tonight, all the trick plays.
Yeah, but I wouldn't put too much into that in terms of, he's had 2 weeks. Hey, he went to see his nephew play football last Friday.
Yeah.
In Utah. Okay, so it wasn't like he'd been sitting around the office all week plotting and scheming. So, there's 17 of these things, as we know, and this is just one of the 17. It means a little more to those two guys, I'm sure. But the Cowboys, let's face it, they're fighting for their lives here. They do not want to go in to this bye on a 2-game losing streak at 3-3. So they got other things to worry about other than how is Kellen Moore's offense going to do.
Babe, put on your offensive coordinator hat tonight and tell me what you have to do to get some things done for the Cowboys offensively.
The interesting thing is we all want to see the ball go down the field more, right? But this is not the team to start that. They play that kind of shell, 4 deep. They keep everything in front. Unlike San Francisco last week, who kind of went out of character but played a lot of in-your-face press man. Unless this team changes their MO, that's not what they're going to do tonight. So there is going to be that check down, and it's going to make fans a little frustrated. But you go back 2 years ago, and it was Brandon Staley's defense, new defensive coordinator this year. But Dak was 23 of 27. No touchdowns. And they just said, go ahead, chip away underneath, and we'll come up and make the tackle, but you can't drive the length of the field doing that. And they held the Cowboys in that game to 20 points. So I think we're going to see more of the same. The interesting thing for me, though, guys, is each week, and I totally understand it, right? The first game in New York, we were there. It's rainy. It's with bad weather. You hold back a little bit. They play Arizona. They're missing 3 starting offensive linemen. That changes your play calling. It just does. They get a huge lead on New England. That changes your play calling. Okay, so we've had all that. I'm going to go back to Mike Maddox, the pitching coach for the Texas Rangers. This was years ago, his first go around here. I'm out of spring training covering the Rangers, and I'm talking to Maddox, and there was a veteran pitcher who was getting beat around a little bit in the spring. And I said to Mike Maddox, you know, he said he's working on some things. He's working on his changeup. He's working on his slider. And Mike Maddox said, you know what he needs to get working on? Getting people out. So yeah. I loved it. It was like, yeah, that's great. You're working on some things. Now I need to see you work on getting people out. So we've had all these reasons why the offense hasn't looked the way we thought it would and fans were hoping it would. I think tonight, okay, let's see it. Let's see you get people out.
Babe Laufenberg with us here on The Fan. How important is it? You saw the frustrations sort of build up a little bit on Sunday night with CeeDee Lamb. How important is it for an offense and as a quarterback, Babe, to try and get the ball into your hands of your best playmaker early and often?
Well, every team tries to do that, right? Every team tries to get their best player the ball. The thing you got to be careful about, if you're Dak Prescott, is forcing him the ball and saying, okay, I got to get CD going. And that's great. Throw him a little smoke screen, get those easy little completions. That's fine. But when you start honing in on him thinking, I got to get him the ball, I'll go back to Vinny Testaverde. He had played with Keyshawn Johnson, right, with the New York Jets. I distinctly remember the game. They're playing at Cincinnati. He gets intercepted 3 times. All 3 times he threw to Keyshawn Johnson when Keyshawn wasn't open. Drew Bledsoe's last pass as a Dallas Cowboy, they were in a 3-by-1, 3 receivers right, 1 left. The 1 left was Terry Glenn, who Drew Bledsoe had a great deal of comfort with because they played together in New England. He goes back right before the half, throws the interception. Talking to Bill Parcells later, he said, Terry isn't even in that read. That is on the strong side. He's not even supposed to be getting the ball. And again, that was Drew's comfort zone to go back to Terry Glenn. And again, it was the last pass Drew Bledsoe threw as a Cowboy because here came Tony Romo in the second half of that game. So my point being, you can't go into the game saying, come hell or high water, we're getting the ball to CeeDee Lamb. They can take him away if they want to, and then Dak's going to have to just be smart and go elsewhere with football.
Babe, how big of a game do you need from Damone Clark today?
Yeah, I think you just need him to be solid. Obviously, he's stepping in for Leighton Vander Esch, and I really felt when Vander Esch went out last year, you know, he's not Micah Parsons, we know that, but I felt that really hurt that defense because, as we all know, Vander Esch is a guy, he's getting people lined up. He's a solid player. I mean, he's a very good player, and that hurt him last year. And we'll see, you know, Damone Clark is a year farther along than he was, so we'll see how he handles it, but again, it's definitely a loss. I always say there's a reason why the starter is starting. He's a better player than the guy behind him 99% of the time.
Would you be interested, baby, if you're Dan Quinn? Like, would you like to see a little Parsons off the ball, traditional linebacker at times, or is it still just, hey, be that menace pass rusher that's just moving all over the line of scrimmage?
It's going to be an interesting thing to watch tonight. We'll probably see it relatively early, but I don't want to take away what Micah Parsons does best, and which is most destructive to the offense, which is get after the quarterback.
Yeah.
So if I'm Dan Quinn, yeah, I want to keep Micah doing that, and I'll fill in a little bit at linebacker. That position is not as important as the guy that's going to go get the quarterback, especially in today's game with, you're going against Justin Herbert, who is just outstanding.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what are your takeaways studying Justin Herbert? He's been in an offense in the first few years of his career with Joe Lombardi that seemed like it really limited his skill set. He's got a cannon of an arm. Seems like they're pushing the ball down the field a little bit more vertically with a guy like Kellen Moore calling the plays.
Well, and I wouldn't say he limited his skill set. This is a guy that has thrown more touchdown passes to start his career than only Dan Marino. So that's pretty good right there. But I will tell you, we got a chance to watch him last year. Cowboys practiced twice against the Chargers down at their training camp at Costa Mesa. And Cowboys offense was on one field. Cowboys defense was on the other field. I just stayed at Justin Herbert's field. I wanted to watch him. And, man, I mean, it's the old, when God had thought up what should a quarterback look like, he had Justin Herbert in mind. The ball just comes out. He made a throw against Minnesota this year. Flat-footed, far hash, guy in his face. And, I mean, both feet were, like, planted in the ground. Didn't step into it at all. And he threw a rope for a touchdown to the right side on an out. You could have let me wind up like a javelin thrower, and I could never have thrown the ball the way he did, just flat-footed. So exceptional talent. And the other part is, obviously, and I know you guys have touched on it, Austin Eckler's coming back. They had him in the first game. They ran the ball 40 times against Miami in that first game. They haven't been running the ball since, but now with Austin Eckler back tonight, that's going to be a little bit of an X factor for the Cowboys to handle.
Babe, if you're more concerned, give me your biggest concern between what you might see with Khalil Mack or Joey Bosa in this game.
Yeah, and Bosa has struggled with injuries, missed last week. He's got a toe injury, so I just wonder how healthy he will be coming after the quarterback today. But, hey, Khalil Mack, six sacks against the Raiders.
Right.
That's doing some damage. So you've got to handle both edges against this team. And I always think it's interesting because we'll see that, you can't double them both, right? You can't have 5 offensive linemen, 2 guys doubling, 3 guys in the pattern. So I always find it interesting when the offense tells you, well, we think this guy is the better player, right? And so we'll see who they want to double up tonight.
Man, that offensive line last week getting the official starting 5 back intact, and then it wasn't as dominant a performance as anyone hoped. But how much, when it comes to the offensive line, getting those reps together in unison as a group is extremely important. Like, you would expect them to look much better on the offensive line tonight than they did last week, correct?
You would think so. And this front 7, obviously, they're good, but they're not San Francisco's front 7.
For sure.
And, one game, they're going to be a little better, you hope, this week, a little better the next week, a little better as they get continuity of working together. But it's not a situation where you say, okay, now we got a game under our belt and we're ready to go. But, you hope for a little bit better this week than last week. And, of course, a little bit better in 2 weeks since we have a bye than they were tonight.
You been following these Rangers a little bit, babe?
I've been trying, on the bus ride over. Bus ride over. How about that?
Yeah, they're getting it done. Getting it done right now. How much fun do you have when you're in a place like Los Angeles on a road trip? Do you lock yourself in your hotel room and put the work in, or you like to get out and about a little bit?
No, I locked myself in, and I grew up out here, so I've got family out here, and I was going to go out with my brother for dinner last night, but I said, I'm exhausted, and I got to get some work done, so pretty much stayed in the room. I went to the Notre Dame USC game Saturday night. So then, I flew to Chicago Friday, and then flew to L.A. from Chicago yesterday. So I was playing a little bit of catch-up. But boy, I'd never been to a Notre Dame game. It's funny, I was recruited there out of high school, took a recruiting trip there, but never saw a game there. But the atmosphere was off the charts. It was fantastic. And, of course, they were all revved up because they were putting it to USC that night.
Yeah, my goodness. Caleb Williams, he's supposed to be the absolute man. Lincoln Riley, he put up 20 points.
They got no defense there at USC. That's a problem.
No, that's for sure.
That's a problem right now. That might keep them out of this playoff. Honestly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it'll be what does them in.
Yeah.
It'll be what does them in.
Yep.
Well, babe, I'm glad you got to enjoy that, and hopefully tonight is getting the Cowboys back rolling. This is gut check time, right? You can't, babe, go into the bye week with back-to-back losses, prime-time losses. This offense can't sputter tonight, right?
Well, you don't want them to, but they can. They can sputter, just like Philadelphia can get beat by the New York Jets, right? And San Francisco can get beat.
Psychologically, right now with the Cowboys, going into the bye week with the offense, if the offense is still having issues scoring and you lose, it feels like there could be a bottoming out sort of situation. That's my perspective on it.
Well, psychologically, I don't think it'll affect them. These guys have been through so much through their careers, high school, college. Dak Prescott has seen a lot, right, in his 8 years. So I don't think psychologically they're going to go in the tank. But nobody, and I mean nobody, wants to have that extra week to think about the loss the week before. And if they do lose today, obviously they get 2 weeks to think about it before they get the Rams at AT&T Stadium.
Babe, you're a beast. Thanks for the time, brother. Enjoy the game.
Oh, thank you, guys. Enjoy the game.
Thank you, man. Thank you. There he goes, Babe Laufenberg, right here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan. He's live at SoFi Stadium, and we'll head back out there. We're just over 90 minutes to kick off Cowboys and Chargers. Let's get the scoop from Cowboys sideline reporter Christy Scales next right here on The Fan.
Head to AT&T Stadium to experience Rally Day presented by SeatGeek on Saturday, October.
Make your crypto play today. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com.
About 90 minutes to kick off. Cowboys-Chargers about to go out to SoFi Stadium. Welcoming Cowboys sideline reporter Christy Scales for The Scoop. It is the official pregame show of America's team right here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan. If you're looking for the Rangers game, Rangers and Astros, top 7th right now. Rangers up 5-3. You can flip over to 1080 KRLD on the AM side. It's our sister station. News Radio 1080 KRLD on the AM side is where you can consume your Rangers baseball with Eric Nadel, Matt Hicks, and Jared Sandler. You'll have Corey Majors and Bobby Belt in Richardson at Old 75 if you want to watch some football tonight and get a G-Bag Nation flag. And then the G-Bag Nation will be out 2 to 7 tomorrow in Arlington at Hurtado Barbecue with all the G-Bag flags as well. So Flagtober is alive and popping. And right now we head out to Los Angeles, SoFi Stadium. Welcome in Cowboys sideline reporter Christy Scales. Christy, happy game night to you. The inactives, do we know anything? Any surprises tonight for the Cowboys?
There is one. The Deuce Vaughn fans won't get to see him play tonight. It's coach's decision, not injury related. He is healthy, but it really has more to do with special teams. So we know that Malik Davis, who's been on the practice squad through the first 5 weeks of the season, was elevated today. So he'll be backup running back along with Rico Dowdle. But the other thing is the Cowboys are going with 6 wide receivers tonight, and this has to do with special teams because without C.J. Goodwin, who was placed on IR today with that pectoral injury, you have rookie wide receiver Jalen Brooks joining Jalen Tolbert at gunner on special teams and punt coverage. So Jalen Brooks is active tonight, and because they need him, he actually will be playing gunner instead of Noah Igbenogany. Noah had stepped in last week when CJ went down early in the first quarter. So that's interesting there that Deuce Vaughn is down. But keep in mind that the other inactives, the one due to injury, Wanye Thomas, that affects special teams as well. So what we have is Deuce Vaughn down, Wanye Thomas down, offensive lineman Awesome Richards, cornerback Noah Igbenogany. Again, he lost his spot at gunner to Jalen Brooks. And then the usual suspects who've been inactive, Junior Fehoko, Eric Scott, and then Trey Lance as your emergency third quarterback. And Jalen Brooks had played once before at gunner, and I was just visiting with C.J. Goodwin. I'm like, I know you've kind of taken him under your wing, and you both of the Jalens, but tell me about him, about Brooks at gunner. And he says, hey, he's he's pretty mild-mannered around the media, but he's a wolf in sheep's clothing there. So let's see if those guys are able to step up and that we avoid a big drop-off in special teams without Goodwin and Thomas.
Christy, we had Matt Money Smith on, the Chargers play-by-play guy. He was talking about he's seen a lot of Cowboy fans there. Just curious which team might go silent count first tonight.
You know, it might be the Chargers. It's interesting because in the week going into an away game, when they're practicing at the Star, obviously it's the offense that has the crowd noise playing and the music because they need to practice silent count. But the Cowboys coaching staff, they expect, and they're right, there are a ton of Cowboy fans here. 70,240 is the capacity here at SoFi Stadium. And of the early arrivals, it's the majority, vast majority Cowboy fans. But back to practice this week, they actually had the noise playing when the Cowboys were on defense. And we don't really think about noise being a factor for defense, but it is because they're trying to communicate as well. The other thing is, in terms of communication, the Cowboys are without one of their leaders and one of the guy who wears the green dot, Leighton Vander Esch, who was placed on injured reserve today. No surprise of that because of the neck injury suffered in Week 5 against San Francisco. But, you know, he's really good at lining people up and communicating. So what they're doing tonight is the 3 green dots are Jaron Kearse and Malik Hooker, and those guys have been the backup green dots to Leighton all year long. But the 3rd green dot today is going to be Damone Clark. But for starting off the game, and then, you know, unless he comes out for injury or substitution, Jaron Kearse will be assuming those duties tonight, taking the calls from Dan Quinn, the Cowboys defensive coordinator, from the coach's press box upstairs here at SoFi Stadium.
Okay, very interesting. Very interesting. And so I guess, Rashawn Evans, the new linebacker that they just brought in, he's not a part of the inactive, so maybe we'll get a chance to see.
He's on the practice squad.
He's practice squad, and so instead of elevating him today, what they did was, of course, they have Malik Jefferson. So the two Maliks were elevated. Malik Davis at running back, and then Malik Jefferson at linebacker. So he's played some defense, but mostly special teams so far when he's been filling in. But this is Malik Jefferson's third elevation of the season, and you're only allowed 3, so they'll have to make a move there. The one thing that was interesting is that the one player that was signed from the practice squad to the 53-man roster today is Tyrus Wheat from Mississippi State, defensive end / linebacker. Think of him as an off-the-ball linebacker. Now, he has been practicing and attending meetings in the recent weeks at both linebacker and defensive end, but when he's been playing scout team through the first 5 weeks and including this week, he's been playing defensive end, so he's getting work at both. And I know that he played off-the-ball linebacker at Mississippi State, but I'm told that the way that Mississippi State used him, they blitzed him a lot, and the way that he would drop into coverage and things like that, very different than what the Cowboys do.
Yes.
But basically, he's on the program, guys, that Micah was on last year. And of course, splitting time between defensive end and linebacker. Of course, up through the first 5 weeks, Micah had been concentrating on defensive end.
Christy, it's going to be a very 1966 look for the Chargers with the powder blues and the yellow pants. What are the Cowboys going to rock tonight?
Hey, we're in color rush, so it's white, head to toe, and this is the second time, even though the Cowboys had worn color rush 7 times before, only last year were the Cowboys able to wear the white helmet instead of their regular silver helmet. But tonight, it's the white pants, white shirt, blue numerals, blue stripes. It's the white helmet with the blue star. And, of course, they've been working in those helmets a few practices over the last couple weeks. So, yeah, I do love the powder blues for the Chargers. I just wish that they didn't have those garish yellow pants. I mean, this is like burning my retinas here. I mean, oh, man. I do love the powder blues, but, wow, it is loud on that home sideline with those
Christy, it takes you back, like you say, those AFL days, man.
Kellen Winslow rocking those?
Exactly. Hey, I love it. See, I was just talking with Will McClay and with Dan Quinn, because behind the visiting bench, they switched from Rams. The Rams played here yesterday, hosted the Cardinals. They switched out the logo at midfield. They changed the end zones for the Chargers logos. They don't have to pull them up. They actually just kind of scrape them up and then put down paint. Yeah, they don't have to replace the whole field like sometimes we do with the Cowboys between college games and NFL games and soccer matches. But anyway, the Dan Fouts and Kellen Winslow, LT, Junior Seau, Kellen Winslow, Charlie Joyner, those guys are in the Chargers Ring of Honor, and so their numbers and those bolts are actually just behind the Cowboys bench between the first and second level. So Dan Quinn was saying that he actually coached Junior Seau for a couple years, and that Junior was such a dog in a good way, and so hard working that he actually had to pull him back in practice because he would be 110% in practice. And Dan's like, "Hey, come on, man, I need to save you for Sundays."
Jeez, that's fantastic. Well, we're all we're speculating. We're wondering if Dan Quinn wants to throw Micah Parsons a little off-ball linebacker tonight. We haven't seen much of that this year. What do you think?
I think we may see some of that tonight. I did not hear that from Dan, but I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see a little bit of everything tonight. So I hope so. And the one thing, just talking with the Cowboys defensive coaches, with Justin Herbert, watching him throw. Oh, he's throwing an out to Keenan Allen right now. I mean, it's almost like when you would be down here in Matt Stafford, his early day with Detroit, you can almost hear the ball whistle past you. The thing is, they say that Herbert has such elite arm talent there is no place on the field that is safe. I mean, you have to cover every inch of field just because there's no place that that Herbert can't put the ball on a dime, and that's what makes it so difficult for a secondary. Plus, he can buy time and move with his legs, but when he's running, it's not just to, eyes down and trying to gain yards. Of course, he can do that if he wants to, but eyes up, trying to extend play. So this is such a unique challenge to go against such a guy with arm talent like Herbert.
No doubt about it. And Kellen Moore pulling the strings. Have you seen him out there roaming around? Is it a pregame love fest between Kellen and his old bros?
Yeah, I know you guys were talking about it earlier, Dak. It was right when Dak came out on the field, Kellen had come out. Also, Simi Fehoko, the former Cowboys wide receiver, of course, he landed with the Chargers, so it was nice to see him connect with everyone. And then before Kellen Moore came out, Doug Nussmeier, the former Cowboys quarterbacks coach, was out here, and it was fun to catch up with him, and he spent even more time than Kellen talking with the current Cowboys coaching staff. So kind of old home week out here at SoFi.
No doubt about it. It's going to be fireworks Monday Night Football, Cowboys, Chargers. Christy, we can't thank you enough for the time and the gold information. As always, we'll catch up with you next hour.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Brian.
There she goes, Cowboys sideline reporter Christy Scales, brought to you by Papa John's. It's big, it's good, and it's only for Cowboys fans. The Cowboys special from Papa John's, a large one-topping pizza for only $9.99. Order today. Better ingredients, better pizza. Papa John's, the official pizza of the Dallas Cowboys. She mentioned Simi Fehoko, former Cowboy, now bounced around and over with the Chargers, hanging out with Kellen Moore. He was quoted coming into this game on the via The Athletic and talking about Kellen Moore. Simi Fehoko, former Cowboy, says Kellen wants to put up 100 points if he can, and he's going to keep scoring if he can. Yeah. And we know the comments from McCarthy as Kellen Moore was sort of mutually agreed.
All he wants to do is score, right?
He wants to score. Yeah. I think Kellen Moore probably takes the McCarthy quote as, okay, so you just think I care more about stats than I do winning. And I got to think Kellen Moore takes that personally, and hearing Simi Fehoko go, oh yeah, he wants to score 100 points and he's going to keep scoring if he can. Now we'll see if the Cowboys defense is showing up at a huge weight tonight, but you got to think Kellen Moore's ready to blow the doors off the Cowboys and run that score up, all the style points, if he gets a chance on Monday Night Football.
This is personal. It really is, and I'm not just saying that. You talk to people. Mike McCarthy. There are a couple of things that happened last year with the situation with the Green Bay game and then also the Jacksonville game. That was a problem.
If you're looking for the Rangers game, you can flip over to 1080 KRLD on the AM side of the dial, and that is where you can consume the Rangers baseball, Rangers versus Astros. But let's keep the pregame party rolling. Cowboys and Chargers. It's Monday Night Football at SoFi Stadium, and let's break it down and go inside the numbers, inside the matchup next right here on The Fan.
Spurs assistant.
The Dallas Cowboys Radio Network is on the air.
Touchdown, Cowboys!
With Brad Sham, Babe Laufenberg, Christy Scales, Eric Chiofalo, and Bryan Broaddus. Brought to you by
AT&T, the official partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. It's Miller time. And by blockchain.com. Make your crypto play today.
Also brought to you by
Bill Nunnally, attorneys and counselors. Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Jack Link's, feed your wild side. Volleman's Dairy, the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. Texaco. Texaco with Techron delivers unbeatable gas mileage. Texaco with Techron, driving performance. And by Papa John's, the official pizza of the Dallas Cowboys. Papa John's, better ingredients, better pizza.
Now, here's Eric Chiofalo and Bryan Broaddus.
An hour and 14 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. An hour and 14 minutes to get your minds and bodies ready for kickoff. Cowboys Chargers. It's Monday Night Football. It's the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. No place we'd rather be. Bryan Broaddus to my right, a Super Bowl champion, a scout of the Dallas Cowboys, ready to break this game down from top to bottom. I'm Eric Chiofalo. It's great to have you in on a Cowboy game night where they're looking for a bounce-back performance. My dear God, they're on prime time last week, Sunday Night Football. Biggest game of the regular season. Everybody's fired up. Let's go into Santa Clara and take advantage of these San Francisco 49ers, and they get smacked around. Now it's time to bounce back. It's redemption time. You go back to California, Broaddus. You head into the bye week, and there's some bad blood when it comes to this coaching staff. There's all sorts of talking points as we head into this one. Cowboys, Chargers, Kellen Moore, the play caller, and that's where I want to start. What have you seen? Breaking down this Chargers team as you have all week long, what have you noticed about Kellen Moore, the play caller, paired with Justin Herbert, the stud quarterback that he is, and how does this Charger offense look, especially compared to the Cowboys offenses of years past where Kellen Moore was the play caller?
Well, he's clearly going to get the ball to Keenan Allen, and he's got a quarterback that's really accurate and a quarterback that can make all the throws. He's sturdy in the pocket. He can move when he has to, but they've got some weapons, and it's just, Keenan Allen has done a really, really nice job. We talked with Matt Money Smith earlier in our broadcast, and he was talking about how maybe at receiver they're a little bit down in some areas. The Mike Williams injury, I think, really hurts them, but they will feed the ball to Keenan Allen in this game, and they're going to challenge the Cowboys secondary to cover him. They're going to move him around in a lot of different spots, try and find some matchups. I wouldn't be surprised if they put him on Gilmore. There'll be a size difference there. He can't run away from Gilmore, but what he can do is he's a much bigger receiver at contested balls, anything like that. He's going to be able to make some plays on that. Austin Eckler hasn't played the last several weeks. That's something different that they now have, is they're going to be that ability to hand him the ball, throw him the ball. Haven't seen them run a bunch of screen plays, but after what San Francisco was able to hit with McCaffrey last week, wouldn't be surprised you put a little screen package in to try and find a way to get him the ball.
Yeah, he's so dangerous, man.
Gerald Everett is the tight end, and I'll tell you one thing about Gerald Everett that I really, really like about him. He's one of those guys that when you watch him play, he's going to move around to a lot of different spots. He's like an H back, those the guys that move along the line of scrimmage, or the guy that lines up in the slot. He's not really like a true Y tight end in line, but what he does is he's like a big receiver with a tight end body, and that kind of thing. So when it comes to separation, he's one of these guys that on average his receptions are about 4.5 yards of separation every time he catches the ball.
Jeez.
So Kellen Moore's doing a good job of getting him the ball in space and moving him around to make him work. But Kellen Moore's done that with tight ends.
He loves going to the tight ends.
Yeah, he has.
And Keenan Allen, especially on third down, right? Is it just like when it's the money down, we're going to Keenan Allen, and then bringing in Eckler is going to be a huge factor there. Does the rushing attack overall? It's certainly better when they're going to have Eckler in there. But how does this front five on this Charger offensive line look?
Well, they've invested high draft picks, first round draft picks in in their offensive line. When you look at Rashawn Slater from a couple years ago, Zion Johnson from Boston College, they'll man the left side of that offensive line, and they have. It's so funny. Will Clapp is the center. Will Clapp, his dad and I played football at LSU. Tommy Clapp. So it's kind of neat to see his son out there play. Saylor, the guard, is a rookie guard. He's got some size to him. Maybe not the guy that has the foot quickness that you would like in your guard. And Trey Pipkins, at the right tackle has had some problems over there. So both tackle spots have had some problems. Slater has dealt with some injury, which kind of has affected the way that he's played. Mm-hmm. But if there's, like I say, Pipkins is the guy at right tackle spot. If the Cowboys want to find a guy to go after, and we said it last week. I watched the tape, and Colton McKivitz, got a helmet sticker and a game ball last week for the 49ers the way he blocked. He'd been awful. Well, yesterday, what happens? He's back to being his bad self. So I feel kind of like, nervous about talking about who you should attack, and you're not taking advantage of that.
All right, well, let's continue the preview here, brought to you by Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. How troubling is it for the Cowboy defense not having Leighton Vander Esch?
I think it's troubling because what happens is it's now going to force Micah to play a little bit more of that off-ball linebacker, where he's so good on the edge, where they put him left, right. They've sometimes put him in the middle, but close to the line of scrimmage. So now there's your focus right there. They're going to have to do some things. And I say it in a way because Damone Clark has not been great. Damone Clark has had his struggles. He was good in the New England game, but they're going to need him to play more downhill. They're going to need him to be better around the ball. They're in pass coverage. They're going to have to find a way to, if he's dropping, he's getting, guys coming across, whether it's receivers, tight ends. We've talked about what they could do with the tight end spot with Everett. His awareness in this football game and ability to play sideline to sideline is going to be super important, especially if they decide we're just going to run the ball with Austin Eckler today.
Yeah, I mean, the trickle effect of losing Leighton Vander Esch can be huge when you factor in, like you said. Of course, Damone Clark's going to have to step up, but then what does that do to Micah Parsons? Are you taking him out of his best spot, where he's just a disruptor, sort of freelancer on the edges and on the interior of the line of scrimmage? Now you change what goes on with him, and how does that affect the entire defense? And last year, when Vander Esch was out due to injury, especially the run defense, took some hits there. So it'll be hugely interesting to see how the Cowboys defense responds after last week getting pushed around by the Niners a little bit. But as we go inside the numbers, let's look at the offense. It's brought to you by Papa John's, the official pizza of the Dallas Cowboys. Better ingredients, better pizza. It is Papa John's. And how about this? The Dallas Cowboys have had 26 possessions in the second half of games so far this year.
Yeah.
They have scored 3 touchdowns on those 26 possessions.
Yeah.
And I know you can talk about game flow and some of this blowout stuff where when they win, they're up by 1 million second half. They're not necessarily trying to go foot on the gas and let's go score. But you've lost twice now. You obviously needed to score in the second halves of those games. You're 3 touchdowns and 26 opportunities in the second half. What do you see from the Charger defense, and how do you see the Cowboys attacking them tonight?
Well, I think it really they're gonna play a ton of zone coverage. And they like to play too deep, and that's something that Dak Prescott thrives. He usually thrives in when they play single high coverage. That's really his bread and butter. We talked about Gilman being out of the game. Matt Money Smith was talking about him and the safety Gilman, who has been a pretty nice player for them, with him and Derwin James. Derwin James coming back. If they play single high like the Cowboys do, they like to bring Derwin James down in the box. So we'll see how they adjust their secondary in order to allow James to get down to the box. I don't think James is particularly great when they play the 2 deep, but they do play it. So
they're trying to limit the big plays.
Yeah, they're trying to limit the big plays. They're trying to keep everything in front of you, and they're trying to make you drive the football.
Well, you got to attack the middle of the field against this defense, right?
Yeah, that's where I feel like that maybe it's a Jake Ferguson type of a game.
Okay.
If you can see if they're going to play too deep, and say they play it wide, where where the one where Schoonmaker had the opportunity for the touchdown catch in the red zone where they played the two safeties in New England wide.
Yes.
That's Dak has got to make the determination. Do you carry routes in there? Is it seam routes? Is it CeeDee Lamb? This team, Dak Prescott, 19% of his throws have been those that are in the flat. Really, very few have been in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
So where they're throwing the ball it's just not anywhere near attacking the middle of these defenses at all.
Yeah, that'll be hugely interesting if the Chargers play like they usually do. As you mentioned, they want to play the two deep safeties,
right.
and that leaves them vulnerable in the middle of the field. Now, maybe the Chargers will tweak the way they do things based on, hey, the Cowboys don't really throw in the middle of the field. Maybe we should play more man like the Niners did. So we'll see what the chess match looks like there.
Yeah, the Chargers are equipped to play man only with Asante Samuel Jr. I don't think Davis, the other corner, is that comfortable. He's a bigger, taller, longer guy. He's one of the most penalized Chargers on the defensive side of the ball.
Good.
Numerous defensive pass interference penalties, numerous holding penalties that he has had to deal with.
All right, we're just getting started here on the official pregame show of America's team. A little over 60 minutes to kick off Cowboys and Niners Monday Night Football. What's the coach think? Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy for tonight's Coach's Corner, standing by with Brad Sham, voice of the Cowboys. Coming up next, you're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Every moment, every touchdown.
Tonight's matchup, Cowboys-Chargers, is, of course, Kellen Moore, former Cowboys OC, now the play caller in Los Angeles with Justin Herbert and the Chargers. And what's the relationship like with Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore, as Mike McCarthy was talking about as Kellen Moore was on his way out? Hey, Kellen likes to score a lot of points. I get it. He's a young play caller. I'm trying to win football games. How much does that get under the skin of Kellen Moore even to this day off a bye week? How much tricks will he have in his bag? I'm very, very curious. And former Cowboy wide receiver, now Chargers wide receiver, Simi Fehoko, says Kellen wants to put up 100 points if he can, and he's going to keep scoring if he can. You know he wants to show out in a big way tonight, put up the points, get the victory, the style points. I think Kellen Moore is going to be very interested in, hey, any opportunity, no matter what the score is in the game, he's going to want to run it up. And that's a huge storyline. I'm excited to see how this plays out, and I'm excited to hear what Mike McCarthy has to say as he's standing by right now live with the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, from SoFi Stadium for tonight's Coach's Corner. Brad, take it away, sir.
Thanks, guys. A beautiful day in Los Angeles, a little steamy. Cowboys and the Chargers, Monday Night Football. This bye won't come 1 minute too soon, but we'll get to that later. You had an extra day this week, and you used it, according to what you told us, partly to take a little deeper dive with your coaching staff after the San Francisco game before you had the players come back on Wednesday, which was kind of an extra day for you. Did you do a little more review than you would have normally done?
I mean, the focus was really on Self Scott, obviously the last game and how we wanted to pivot into, this Chargers contest. So, and we've been going, full 5 weeks. So, I mean, the rest of the recovery, focal point was part of that equation. So, but it was really just to focus on us and take just a full 7-day run into the Chargers.
Did you, in retrospect, find the extra time useful? Did you put it to good use in terms of the self-scout?
Oh, definitely. I think so. I think just like anything, you always break it down into the 3 realms. I think physically, give them a chance another day to get their bodies back, and they clearly responded. The energy and their productivity and the way they practiced on Thursday and Friday was exactly what we needed, and I thought they had an excellent final practice yesterday. So, and I think mentally, just the chance to, just dot your I's and cross your T's, that's never a bad thing, as you know, to go back and spend extra time on that. And I think emotionally, it was important for us to absorb what happened and make sure we take that opportunity to learn from it. So, and I feel like we accomplished that.
So emotionally, then what happened, do you think, when you had the extra time to look at it?
It's more personal. It's more self-reflection. I mean, we have mental conditioning and things like that we tie into each and every week. But I think it's just like anything. This is just sitting around watching the games yesterday. I mean, our league is crazy, and it's just a great reminder just to keep cleaning your own house, farming your own land, and just stay, just keep the focus internally. And I think we had a good week of that.
What's your personal yardstick for gauging where your team is, if they're responding to what you want them to respond to in the way you want them to?
I think ultimately everything we do is results on the field. We can talk, teach, demand, correct, analyze, educate, but at the end of the day, it's about playing football between the lines. And Friday's practice looked like it the way it's supposed to, and I thought the final practice yesterday was, from a number standpoint, was excellent, as far as energy and so forth, but the execution was high. I think we had one incompletion. It was a drop ball on offense, and defense, we didn't have any repeats, no pre-snap penalties, so I thought it was a very clean final practice.
I think we talked last week about how you have coached the game that's been presented to you, called the game that's been presented to you every week, and last week was not like any of the other 4 before it. That's, in your own personal conviction, have you found any kind of offensive rhythm yet? Do you think you know what the identity of the team offensively is? Not what you want it to be, but what it is.
Well, I think identity and rhythm are 2 different, they're 2 different elements. I would say there's definitely moments in the first month we definitely had rhythm. I mean, you don't move the ball at the level that we moved it, and in the time of possession is really the reflection of that. Identity I think that's something you're always trying to formulate, especially in year one when there's a change. But I think the fact that we want to be balanced, we want to be able to play whatever direction we need to go, and that's all part of the the complementary football formula.
How many times in your career have you coached against someone with whom you coached, and it became like a storyline?
I mean, a number of times. I mean, obviously we had coaches leave Green Bay and go on to be head coaches and coordinators. So yeah, this is definitely not the first time. And I think it's, if anything, it makes your practice flow a little easier. When the defense puts their cards up, the players all know the plays. So I mean, that's definitely a bonus. But yeah, it's part of our league. I mean, if you're in this league long enough, you're going to be coaching against family, friends, and former former assistants. So I think it's just part of being in the league a long time.
And when you're in that situation, I mean, every game's different. Your objective is to win the game. You wouldn't mind if Dan pitched a shutout today, would you?
Oh, I wouldn't mind Dan pitching a shutout every day. So I mean, it has nothing to do with Kellen. I mean, it's just and Dan has spent extra time talking to the offensive coaches and gathering information and make sure you would do on anybody, as far as trying to get ready for a game plan, and I'm sure they did their work on their side too. So, but yeah, this is all about competing and winning the game. So we're looking forward to it.
One difficulty, at least I'm imagining, it could be a little bit of a difficulty for you as you present them to your players. In watching their tape, their running back is one of their best offensive players. He's only on one tape. He's missed 3 weeks, and they had a bye. What does he add to what they can do?
Well, I think the biggest thing, obviously you do have last year's, but something we've done is we've gone back to our practice tape with them last year because it gave our players a opportunity to just watch themselves go against a number of the matchups that are going to occur tonight. So we feel like we have a good grip. And I mean, this is a very, very talented football team, and specifically, with their offensive perimeter players. So, I mean, they're dynamic. They got a dynamic quarterback. So this is an excellent challenge for our defense.
Lastly, I've just got to ask you about one player who fans have not heard about, anything about Tyrus Wheat. He may not play any part of the game tonight, but you signed him. You didn't just elevate him. You signed him. So that says to me someone else is trying to sign him. Someone was trying to poach him off your practice squad. But what do you like about Tyrus Wheat?
Well, I think clearly he has earned this. I mean, yeah, this was not about poaching, but I think just like anything, you're at all the games, preseason. I mean, he played well in the preseason, so I'm glad that no one, did try to come after him, but he's been great at practice. He plays both on the ball, off the ball, and I think he'll definitely give us a bigger physical player in special teams. So this is something he's definitely earned.
All right, thanks, Mike. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, Brad.
All right, fellas, back to you.
Thank you, Brad Sham. That is tonight's Coach's Corner with Brad Sham and your Cowboy head coach, Mike McCarthy. Big one tonight. It's sort of McCarthy versus Kellen Moore. Everybody's discussing it. Do you think that for McCarthy, does this feel like it might be as big as going back to Lambeau last year, just for him personally?
No, I think the Lambeau thing was the biggest thing that he's ever experienced.
Okay.
He went there, and the way that he left was unfortunate for him. Going against Aaron Rodgers, that whole thing, that was a big deal. There was some talk about him and Aaron not really getting along at the very end. But when you work at a place as long as he did and win a Super Bowl, they've got a street named after you. That's kind of what they do with the Super Bowl winning coaches there. And so there was nothing bigger than the Green Bay. Where it's personal is right now, Mike McCarthy's offense is not doing the job.
Mm-hmm.
We're not seeing the explosiveness that we saw in Kellen Moore, and that's where the questions are. That's where it's become personal. That and that's why hey, Kellen, if he can hang 100 on the Cowboys tonight, he absolutely will, because of what Mike McCarthy said. And Mike's made it personal that way, but nothing will be as big as him going back in that game in Green Bay.
All right, Broaddus, Chef Broaddus here, 469, our guy, Mike in Caddo Mills.
Yeah.
He says he's of course drinking all the Miller Lite right now, and he's doing braised chops with a balsamic reduction with some grilled corn. He's going Cowboys 27-24.
Yeah.
So how do you think about that Monday Night Football
Yeah,
menu?
I'll tell you what, I do like what he's doing there with the braise. That is a slow, long process with the liquid and all that. Just make sure you keep your braising liquid at the right level. Don't let that thing get too low. But he's talking about the reduction, so he might be bringing it down. I don't know if he's using wine or on his reduction or what he's using as his liquid there, but it sounds like a quality menu.
All right, very good. And what's on your menu? We'd love to hear from you at 877-881-1053. The 817 already saying all the Papa John's pizza tonight. How about that? All the Papa John's pizza for some Monday Night Football action. Cowboys and Chargers. We inch closer and closer to a Cowboy kickoff. Let's continue to get to know the enemy, and we'll go into the owner's box live from SoFi with Christy Scales and Cowboys owner and general manager Jerry Jones coming up next. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Eric Chiofalo, and Bryan Broaddus.
Just over 30 minutes to kick off Cowboys and Chargers. It's the official pregame party of America's team. Monday Night Football in Los Angeles. You know Jerry's fired up. Let's go into the owner's box. It's Christy Scales, Cowboys sideline reporter, standing by with Cowboys owner Jerry Jones. Take it away, Christy.
That's right, and we are in the Cowboys bench area with Jerry. And Jerry, it's been interesting. It's almost been like Cowboys' old home week here, talking with Kellen Moore, talking with Doug Nussmeier, Simi Fehoko. I know that people are looking at this Kellen Moore kind of matchup with Dan Quinn. What do you see as those two coordinators match wits tonight?
Well, I think it's almost tried to say that they're familiar and they know each other's coaching habits or style, if you will. And so all of that is there, but it's what's good for the goose is good for the gander. It's that way on both sides. We know them, they know us. He's going to run the ball, and when he can't run the ball, he's going to throw the ball long. And so we've got all that down, but he's got the way Mike likes to do it too. So this has been an interesting ball game, and of course we're so excited to really have a chance to from such an outstanding team to see how we respond from last week.
And they have such a talented offense, and the Cowboys defense being without Leighton Vander Esch. I know that you had to put Leighton on injured reserve today, so not that you can ever make up for the loss of a player of his caliber, but how do you expect to combat this defense when you're missing one of your leaders on defense?
Well, we can't make up for his loss. He's his leadership, but his awareness. So we really are going to have to make adjustments. But I'm pretty excited about the guys that are going to get a chance to supplement you. He'll take more than one to make up for what he's going to do. But this is a good opportunity for several players out there, and I think we might like the adjustment that we make in the overall defense to make up for Leighton there.
Is there any chance that Micah Parsons may get to play a little bit of linebacker or be a little off the ball today?
Well, I would hate to think about Michael doing too much more than putting pressure, but you can do some pressure from that middle linebacker as well.
What do you see tonight from your offense getting untracked from a rough game last week?
So I think we're going to have to run the ball in the middle, and we need to do that, and we're going to have to make some plays, get Lamb going early.
And one last question for you, Jerry, and that has to be about the support that you have from the Cowboys fans here in Southern California. I know it's a homecoming for you because your old house is just a couple of miles from here. But when you look around every time we go to SoFi and you see Cowboy blue instead of Charger or Ram blue, it must be very satisfying for you.
It is very, very rewarding. And I'll tell you right now that it's amazing that the house I was born in is about a mile right here in Inglewood, right at the end of the runway. Now, I don't have those memories, but I feel like I know everything I ever said. Mama said I was talking when I was 6 months. Mama.
Why am I not surprised to know that? That's it.
No, but the bottom line is that it does feel good to play here.
We appreciate it. Thanks so much. That's the view from the owner's box with Jerry Jones. And as we continue counting down to Cowboys Chargers in primetime on Monday Night Football, let's rejoin Eric and Bryan.
Thank you, Christy. Tonight's view from the owner's box is brought to you by Papa John's. Better ingredients, better pizza. It is Papa John's. What do you think about Jerry there? He's giddy. He's in Los Angeles. It's primetime football. Get CeeDee Lamb the ball early and often.
Yeah.
Which I think makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, he's talking about defensive adjustments, though, too.
Yeah.
There's something that maybe that they have in mind or what they want to do. And I don't know, maybe, we've given it a lot of thought about off-ball linebacker. Do they have some other things that they want to do? Maybe that they really do like Malik Jefferson a lot. Does he play in this game? With some signings, elevations. I mean, Jerry was kind of hinting that there's something different that they're going to do on defense, and maybe it's not take Micah off the edge. Maybe it's they got some other opportunities that they're going to try at that linebacker spot.
Yeah, he didn't seem too keen on taking Micah away from his usual role, but I did see Michael Gehlken tweeting out video just a few minutes ago during the pregame warmups. He says Micah Parsons is usually with the Cowboys defensive linemen taking pass rush reps before the game, but Gelkin says that Micah was not with that group today. So maybe that is a sign that they will be working him in at a little bit more off-ball stuff with the injury to Leighton Vander Esch. I think it would make some sense. And Micah, this was I believe the first time in his career where he was frustrated enough this week, and I presume locked in enough and just couldn't wait to get out to the field tonight. But he didn't meet with the media. Didn't meet with the media this week.
Yeah.
During the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you get quotes from players, and Micah's usually a heck of a quote. And he didn't even want to mess with it this week.
No, I mean, and what's really kind of, well, that's Micah. He's one of these guys. He has his own podcast now. He's one of those guys that's really out on social media. He's maybe there is a little bit more some focus last couple of weeks. 2 out of the last 3 weeks, they haven't played very well on defense, and maybe this is his way of saying, okay, I'm going to focus a little bit more on what we have to do. And good for him if that's what he feels like. If that's what he feels like is necessary for him to get ready to go.
Well, as we get to know the enemy here, brought to you by Arrow Exterminators, the official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. It looks like things are getting a little bit testy here, hearing reports of some pregame scuffle situations going on between some Cowboy players and the Chargers.
It looks like Mozzie Smith. The Cowboys were coming out onto the field, and the Chargers, I believe, were working on some of their defensive back drills, maybe to their sidelines, and the Cowboys were coming through that side, and then Mozzie Smith got bumped and then stopped, and I couldn't tell who he pushed, but he clearly was the guy that threw the first, not say a punch or anything, but he gave a shove, and then both teams came together from that. But he was the one guy that stopped. Obviously, somebody from the Chargers bumped into him, and he took exception to that and turned around and gave his own shove back.
I like that, man. Temper's flaring a little bit. You got to have the energy. You got to be fired up for a situation like this. This is gut check time for the Cowboys, and this Zebra crew. Yeah. Land Clark, they like their unnecessary roughness calls.
They
so
do.
Got to be careful getting too testy between the lines, because this is a flag happy crew through the first 6 weeks of the season when it comes to the unnecessary roughness stuff. So you're going to have to take it a little bit easy there.
Well, yeah, and what's really interesting too is from and this comes from the X account or Twitter account of Rick Goslin. Rick is talking about that he has tweeted out that the Cowboys are 4-0 with Land Clark as the official. So maybe that will play it in a little bit to their advantage right there with them being a perfect 4-0 with him as an official. But you're absolutely right. 7 unnecessary roughness calls. What he had last year. This
throughout the season.
Through this season, yeah, the 7 unnecessary roughness, and the Chargers as a team have 4 of them themselves.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll take a couple of 15-yarders tonight.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Lane Clark and his crew don't really like calling offsides on defenses.
Yeah,
because I think that'll go a long way for the Cowboys and be able to find a victory. I noticed the Cowboys defense right now currently ranks dead last in rushing success rate. So that is a little bit concerning. Eckler's coming back. No Leighton Vander Esch. Dan Quinn's going to have to make some tweaks. So is it going to be Micah off ball, as reports are during the pregame warmups? You don't have Micah working with the pass rushers as he usually does. So maybe that's a sign we'll see a little Micah off ball tonight as the Cowboys look to avenge last week's disaster in San Francisco. Plenty of people texting in what's on the menu tonight after Mike and Cato Mills was braising some chops and doing some grilled corn. We got some 903 breakfast for dinner action. I think that's always a great move. Shout out to you, 903, with the bacon, eggs, the biscuits, the gravy, doing it right. We're getting a lot of Miller Lite and Papa John's going down, no question about it. And all the way from New Jersey, Kevin is eating the best chicken wings he's ever had.
There you go.
According to Kevin. So a little
Congrats.
chicken wing action, a little breakfast for dinner, I think is always a great game night move. So
Sunday staple.
Yeah. Is that a little Sunday staple for you?
That's a Sunday staple for
Well,
me.
we're making it a Monday night staple. Tonight, Monday Night Football, Cowboys Chargers, live from Los Angeles here on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. We inch closer and closer to kickoff. Let's go inside the booth with the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Cowboys football.
Chargers, SoFi Stadium right here on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. Let's head out to SoFi and get the keys to the game from Cowboys sideline reporter Christy Scales, brought to you by Pollock Aurora, proud supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Christy, you're down on that field. What was your vantage point? We're hearing about skirmishes and pregame scuffles going on between these two teams.
Yeah, we know one of the keys to the game is being physical and aggressive, and it started, I'd say, almost 40 minutes. Right now there's 25 minutes. The clock's counting down to kickoff, but it was between the 40 and the 50-yard line right here in the Cowboys bench area, just at the boundary line. And what happened was the Chargers defensive backs, they're doing their position group drills as they normally do, and what happens is on the far right sideline, the Cowboys come up the tunnel. That would be the far right side of the bench. And as the defensive linemen were coming out, let's just say they kind of got in the way of these DB position group work and didn't vacate the area expeditiously. So the Chargers DBs took exception. And it took most of the officiating crew, and it took several coaches, including Cowboys coaches, to help break it up. So that's the DBs like Derwin James and the like. It's Mozzie Smith, Sam Williams, other Cowboys defensive linemen. But the good news is that the officiating crew was out there. And even though there was some pushing and shoving, and it took maybe about 30, 40 seconds to get all parties separated, this was a pretty good skirmish. I don't want to say on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe about a 5 or a 6, but yeah, this is going to be a very chippy game tonight if pregame is any indication.
Christy, on the TV, it appears that maybe Jimmy Johnson stayed around after his Fox duties on Sunday to hang out at the stadium. Any sightings that you can talk about with him down on the field?
Yeah, it's Old Home Week down here. So first he saw Troy Aikman. Troy, of course, is doing the game for Monday Night Football. Jimmy and Jay Glazer were both here from Fox. So again, I guess I thought that Jimmy went home straight after they said cut on the Fox set. But it's literally right here. It shares the campus at SoFi Stadium where they work for Fox. So they walked on over here. So Jimmy first visited with Troy Aikman, and then a nice visit with Charlotte Jones, and then probably at least a 10-minute visit with Jerry Jones. So, and it was in front of all the cameras. It was all smiles and yucks and hugs and things like that. So they knew they were on camera. But yeah, he was down here for quite a while. And just in the last minute and a half, they've cleared the sidelines. All the players have gone up the tunnels. And so they've cleared the field, and we'll be getting ready for pregame introductions in just a couple of minutes.
And your conversation with Jerry a few minutes ago, it sounded like, hey, let's get CeeDee Lamb the ball early and often. And he didn't want to give away too much about these defensive changes tonight.
No, he didn't. And like he said, Micah Parsons, you want to keep him with that pass rush. But I still wouldn't be surprised if maybe we see a little off the ball. So, again, with Justin Herbert, he can move, so keep him contained. He's always got his eyes up the field. You have to be really sticky as a defensive back because there's nowhere on the field that is safe. He's got so much arm talent. He can reach anywhere on the field. He can buy time with his legs, and he's got great weapons in the offense. And, of course, they have Austin Eckler back, who had been sidelined since week 1 with an ankle injury. So they're without Mike Williams, who's on IR, but the rest, this is a loaded arsenal for the Chargers offense and for Kellen Moore.
Christy, you're the best. Thanks for the time. Enjoy the game tonight.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Bryan.
There she goes, Cowboys sideline reporter Christy Scales, and we keep it locked in Los Angeles, SoFi Stadium, and we go inside the booth with the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, brought to you by WinStar World Casino and Resort, the casino of the Dallas Cowboys. Brad, thank you, sir, for some time. What do you make Micah off the ball? Does that feel like something that needs to be done tonight a little bit more?
Oh, a little bit, but I think it will be, but I don't think he'll have more than 10 or 15 snaps off the ball. I think they're going to have a little committee, and some of it will be various safeties, and some of it will be Malik Jefferson, and some of it will be Tyrus Wheat, who I asked 3 different people if they signed Wheat instead of just elevating him because someone was trying to poach him from the practice squad. And I got kind of wishy-washy answers, which wasn't quite no and wasn't quite that was the reason. But they did like him, and you heard McCarthy say that, if you saw training camp, they like what he can do. He'll play some versatility. He was an inside linebacker at Mississippi State. Now, the Cowboys have used him more on the edge, but I do think he'll be one of those guys in that rotation.
Brad, the Cowboys, you were trying to get to that thing with Weed and all that. Maybe that's what Jerry Jones was kind of talking about. Maybe there's going to be a little bit different look with this. Are they worried about they worried about him, or could they use him more as that edge, or do you think he'd be maybe more as that linebacker?
I think he's going to be both. Bryan, they've liked him. The interesting thing to me is that he's been on the practice squad,
right?
And Junior Fajoko's on the active roster, and they didn't just elevate him. Now they signed him to a spot on the roster.
Right.
And so this will be one tip, but remember the week off next week, and then I think when they come out of that, we'll have a better sense of who they're going to use, how. Plus, they'll be able to throw Rashaan Evans into the mix coming out of the bye. But I think right now they're trying to. The difficulty, as you well know, is that you've got to be stout against the run. But then with Eckler, you've also got to watch the perimeters, and they've got tight ends they can throw to.
Right.
So it's a challenge. It's a challenge for the defense.
Brad, what have you noticed studying the Chargers offense with Kellen Moore running the show? Does it look a lot like how the Cowboys played last year?
It's really deceiving, Eric, because Eckler's one of their biggest weapons, and they have not had him for 3 out of 4 games. Yeah. So you have to play a little bit differently when that's the circumstance. I've loved Herbert as a player since he was a rookie, and they have Keenan Allen's a guy who's averaging like 7 or 8 catches a game, and he's a serious player. So they like to throw to their tight ends, and so I think they've got some versatility. I think Joshua Kelly's a good back. I don't know that it's the same, because you have to fit the offense you're calling to your personnel. But I don't know if you guys heard it, I did say to McCarthy, just tell the truth. Wouldn't you really?
Yes.
You wouldn't hate it. You wouldn't hate it if Quinn pitched a shutout tonight, would you?
Yeah.
And he said, you always want to pitch a shutout. But he said, you coach against your family members and guys you've worked with and everything, that becomes not that big a deal. I think that it would be a little bit bigger deal considering the way McCarthy's offense is playing, which doesn't have anything to do with the defense against Kellen Moore.
Absolutely. Are you getting some old school flashbacks looking at these Chargers unis tonight, Brad?
No, because I don't remember the gaudy, what the Yiddish word is, chalushes, yellow shorts with the powder blue. I love the powder blue jerseys.
Yeah, me
I don't
too.
remember them wearing those gaudy yellow shorts with them. I think maybe they wore white. Anyway, I'm not in the demographic they're looking to try to please with the uniform choices.
Well, hey,
trust me.
I've long appreciated your fashion sense there, Brad. So I'm going to take your word
thanks.
for it.
Sure, thanks.
Enjoy the game tonight, man. Thank you.
All right, guys.
There he goes, voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham. Before we get our predictions, Broaddus, we need to pause 10 seconds to allow stations to identify themselves along the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan. Tolo, baby. KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas Fort Worth.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brian Broaddus, you're a Super Bowl champion. You probably already know this. These Dallas Cowboys are 9-1 in their last 10 tries off a loss. Mike McCarthy gets this team ready to play for victory off a loss. It's the biggest loss in the regular season, probably in the McCarthy era, when you consider the stakes that were involved in last week's game versus the Niners. And now it's time to bounce back. And I'm not the most confident that I've ever been, but I feel like, hey, this is going to feel like a home game for the Cowboys tonight, and they will find a way to get it done. They're playing a Chargers team that sort of finds a way to lose games over the course of these last few years with Brandon Staley. And so give me Cowboys 23 and Chargers 20. Go into the bye week feeling better.
Yeah, I went with an Aubrey game winner, 27-24 Cowboys. Looking forward to seeing how this one shakes out. This is a huge game for the Cowboys.
Huge, man.
Yeah, you cannot be 3-3 going into the bye week with all the questions that they might have. So this is a big one to go get.
Let's get it. Let's get it right here on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Monday Night Football in Los Angeles. It's Cowboys, it's Chargers, and it's Brad Sham, Babe Laufenberg, and Christy Scales. They got you the rest of the way. Broaddus and Walchuk will handle the halftime and postgame duties. But coming up next, Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
I'm Doug.